It was one of those gray mornings where the sky seemed to press down on everything, making even the air feel heavy. I was sipping my coffee, trying to shake off the remnants of a restless night, when my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Chloe, my niece. We didn't text often, so seeing her name light up my screen was a surprise. "Need your help. Can't talk here. It's about Mom. Please don't tell anyone." My heart skipped a beat. Chloe was a smart kid, but for her to reach out like this meant something serious was up. "My name is Harper, by the way. I'm a high school guidance counselor, so dealing with teenage drama is kind of my thing, but this felt different. Personal. I had managed to keep a safe distance from my sister Delilah's chaos for years, but it seemed like today was the day that was about to change. I called Chloe immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried to focus on my morning routine, but the nagging worry wouldn't let go. Delilah, my older sister, had always been a whirlwind of charm and manipulation, and I had spent a good part of my life dodging her storms. But Chloe's message was like a beacon, pulling me back into the family drama I'd tried so hard to escape. Ethan, my fiancé, noticed my distraction as I paced the kitchen. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice calm and grounding. "Chloe sent me a weird text," I replied, handing him my phone. "I'm worried about her." He read it, his brow furrowing slightly. "Do you think it's serious? With Delilah involved?" "Probably." Ethan nodded, understanding the unspoken complexities. He knew how tangled things could get with my family. "You should go see her. I'll cover for you at the school if you need me to." I appreciated his support more than I could say. "Thanks. I'll see if I can get in touch with her first." I tried calling Chloe again, but still no answer. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. I decided to drive over to their house. Delilah's scandals were usually nothing more than exaggerated tales she spun, but Chloe's plea felt different. Urgent. As I drove, memories of growing up with Delilah flooded back. She'd always had this way of drawing people in, only to turn on them when they least expected it. I'd learned to keep my distance, but Chloe didn't have that luxury. She was stuck in Delilah's web, and it was clear she needed help. When I arrived, the house looked the same as ever, but there was a tension in the air. Delilah greeted me at the door with her usual dazzling smile, but there was something off about it. Forced, maybe. "Harper, what a surprise," she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. "What brings you by?" "I just wanted to check in on Chloe," I replied, trying to keep my tone casual. "She's fine," Delilah said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Busy with school stuff, you know how it is." But I knew Delilah too well to take her words at face value. There was something she wasn't saying, and I was determined to find out what. As I left, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Chloe. Just 2 words. "Don't trust." It was clear now. Whatever Delilah was hiding, Chloe was caught in the middle, and it was up to me to unravel this mess. Little did I know, this was just the beginning, and the secrets waiting to be uncovered would change everything. I parked a few houses down from Delilah's place, hoping to catch Chloe on her way out. The morning chill seeped through my jacket, but I barely noticed, too focused on the house and the tension crackling around it. I didn't have to wait long before I saw Chloe slip out the front door, her backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes darting around like she was expecting a trap. "Chloe!" I called softly, stepping out of the car. Her head snapped in my direction, relief washing over her face as she hurried towards me. "Aunt Harper," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thanks for coming. What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your texts worried me." She glanced back at the house, then back at me, her expression a mix of fear and determination. "It's Mom. She's in trouble, but she's trying to drag everyone down with her." "Trouble how?" I pressed gently, sensing the weight of whatever secret she was carrying. "Work stuff. Money. I don't know all the details, but she's been acting weird. Paranoid. And she's blaming you for everything." "Me?" I asked, startled by the accusation. "Yeah. She says you're trying to turn everyone against her, that you're jealous or something." Chloe shook her head, frustration etched in every line of her face. "It's like she's creating enemies out of thin air." I sighed, feeling the familiar tug of family drama trying to pull me under. "I'm not jealous of your mom, Chloe. I just want you to be okay." "I know," she said, her voice softening. "That's why I reached out. I need someone I can trust." Before I could respond, the front door swung open, and Delilah stepped out, her gaze zeroing in on us. Her smile was still in place, but there was a sharpness to it now, like a blade hidden in silk. "Harper," she called, walking towards us with a calculated grace. "What a coincidence running into you here." I braced myself, knowing this wouldn't be a simple conversation. I wanted to check on Chloe, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Delilah's eyes flicked to Chloe, then back to me, her smile never wavering. She's fine. Aren't you, Chloe? Chloe nodded, but her eyes told a different story. Yeah, Mom. There's no need to worry, Harper, Delilah continued, her voice smooth and reassuring. Everything's under control. But I knew her well enough to hear the cracks beneath the surface. If you say so, I replied, not backing down. Delilah's smile faltered for a split second, a flash of something darker lurking beneath. You should come over for dinner soon. It's been too long. I'll think about it, I said, knowing full well it would be a battlefield rather than a meal. As I drove away, Chloe's words echoed in my mind. Delilah was spinning a web of lies, and now I was caught in it too. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that maybe this time, I wouldn't just be a passive player in her game. Maybe it was time to take a stand, not just for Chloe, but for myself. The stakes were higher than ever, and the truth was the only weapon I had. The next morning, I was still reeling from my encounter with Delilah when my phone rang. It was my mother, Judith. Her voice was as steady as ever, but there was an edge to it that made my stomach tighten. Harper, we need to talk about this nonsense you're stirring up with Delilah, she said, skipping over any pleasantries. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm. Mom, I'm just trying to help Chloe. Help her? By accusing your sister of God knows what. She shot back, disbelief dripping from every word. She's in trouble, Mom. Delilah's making things worse. Delilah says you're the one causing trouble, Judith replied, her tone clipped. You need to stop meddling. I clenched the phone tighter, frustration bubbling up. I'm not meddling. I'm worried about Chloe. Chloe is fine, she insisted, as if saying it enough times would make it true. You need to let this go, Harper. As the call ended, I felt that familiar sense of isolation creeping in. My parents had always turned a blind eye to Delilah's antics, and it seemed nothing had changed. I needed to find another way to reach Chloe without getting stonewalled by family politics. That afternoon, I decided to meet Chloe after school. We found a quiet corner in a nearby park, away from prying eyes and ears. Chloe looked exhausted, her usual spark dimmed by the weight of her secrets. Thanks for meeting me, she said, dropping onto a bench next to me. Things at home are tense. I nodded, understanding more than I liked to admit. I talked to Grandma. She's convinced everything's fine. Chloe let out a bitter laugh. Of course she does. Mom's got everyone wrapped around her finger. What exactly is going on with your mom? I asked, trying to piece together the fragments of the truth. Chloe hesitated, glancing around as if the trees might be listening. She's been borrowing money from work. A lot of it. I overheard her talking about it on the phone. My heart sank. This was worse than I'd thought. Chloe, that's serious. If she gets caught, she'll blame it on someone else, Chloe interrupted, her voice tinged with anger. She always does. The more we talked, the clearer it became that Delilah's world was on the brink of collapse. And Chloe was caught in the middle, trying to hold it all together. As we sat there, a new idea began to take shape. It was risky, but it might be the only way to help Chloe and expose the truth. Chloe, would you be willing to stay with me for a while? Just until things settle down? Her eyes widened, surprise and hope mingling on her face. You'd really do that? Of course, I said, my resolve hardening. We'll figure this out together. Before Chloe could respond, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Delilah, and it was a single chilling line. Stay out of this or else. The threat hung in the air between us, but it only strengthened my resolve. Delilah could try to scare me off, but I wasn't backing down. Chloe needed me, and for the first time, I realized that standing up to Delilah wasn't just about protecting Chloe. It was about reclaiming my own life from the shadows of her manipulations. A few days after my meeting with Chloe, I was in my office at the high school, going over student files, when my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from a prestigious counseling center on the West Coast, offering me a position I had long dreamed of. The salary, the location, the opportunities, it was all perfect. But the timing couldn't have been worse. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. This was the kind of offer that could change my life, but accepting it would mean leaving Chloe just when she needed me most. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was a test, a crossroads where I had to choose between my career and my family. Later that evening, I shared the news with Ethan over dinner. His eyes lit up with pride, but he quickly noticed my hesitation. You don't seem excited, he said, studying my face. I am, but I trailed off, struggling to put my conflict into words. Chloe needs me right now. I can't just leave her. Ethan nodded, understanding the unspoken dilemma. Harper, you've worked so hard for something like this. But I get it. Family comes first. His support was comforting, but it didn't make the decision any easier. I was caught between two worlds, each pulling me in a different direction. The next morning, I met Chloe at our usual spot in the park to talk things over. As we sat on the bench, I tried to gauge her mood. She seemed more at ease, but there was still a shadow of worry in her eyes. I got a job offer, I began, watching her reaction closely. It's a big deal, but it's far away. Chloe's face fell slightly, though she tried to mask it with a brave smile. Wow, that's amazing. You deserve it. But it means I'd have to move, I continued, my voice tinged with regret. And I don't want to leave you behind. Chloe looked down at her hands, her silence speaking volumes. Finally, she said, You should take it, Aunt Harper. You've always been there for me. I'll figure things out. Her words were selfless, but they only made my heart ache more. I'm not going anywhere until I know you're safe and okay. As we talked, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Meet me at the old diner tonight. Come alone. It was unsigned, but I had a sinking feeling about who it might be. That evening, I drove to the diner, the neon sign flickering in the twilight. Inside, I found Delilah waiting at a booth, her expression unreadable. I slid into the seat across from her, bracing for whatever was coming. Harper, she said, her voice low and controlled. I heard about your job offer. How? I asked, suspicion creeping in. Mom and Dad told me. They think you're running away. I'm not running, I replied, meeting her gaze. I'm trying to do what's best for everyone. Delilah leaned back, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite place. You always were the golden child. But this time it's not about you. It's about Chloe. I nodded, trying to keep my emotions in check. Exactly. And that's why I'm staying. For a moment, her mask slipped, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. She's all I have left, Harper. The admission caught me off guard, but before I could respond, Delilah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her expression hardening. I have to go, she said abruptly, standing up. As she left, I realized that this wasn't just about Chloe or me. Delilah was fighting her own battles, and the lines between villain and victim were blurrier than ever. The stakes had never been higher, and I was more determined than ever to see this through, no matter the cost. The day of the family dinner loomed over me like a storm cloud. I knew it was a powder keg waiting to explode, but I also knew it was time to confront Delilah with everything I had learned. As I prepared to leave, Ethan pulled me into a hug, his warmth steadying my nerves. Remember, you're not alone in this, he murmured, his voice a comforting anchor. I nodded, grateful for his unwavering support. Thanks, Ethan. I'll call you if things get out of hand. At my parents' house, the air was thick with tension. Judith and Martin greeted me with forced smiles, their eyes flicking nervously between me and Delilah. Chloe sat quietly at the table, her gaze fixed on her plate. Dinner started off with the usual small talk, but the undercurrents of unease were impossible to ignore. Delilah, ever the performer, kept the conversation light, but I could see the cracks in her facade. Her eyes darted to me every so often, as if daring me to speak up. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Delilah, we need to talk about what's really going on, I said, my voice cutting through the chatter. She paused, her fork hovering midair. What do you mean, Harper? Chloe told me about the money from work, I said, choosing my words carefully. And I know you've been blaming me to cover your tracks. The room went silent, the weight of my words settling over us like a shroud. Delilah's eyes flashed with anger, but there was something else there too, fear. Harper, that's enough, Judith interjected, her voice a mix of desperation and denial. We're here to have a nice family dinner. Mom, this isn't just about dinner, I replied, trying to keep my frustration in check. It's about Chloe and what she's been dealing with. Chloe looked up, her eyes pleading with me to continue. It's true, Grandma. I've been scared and confused, and I didn't know who to trust. Delilah's composure slipped, her voice rising in defensive panic. Chloe, how could you? I'm your mother. And I'm her aunt, I said, standing my ground. I'm not going to let her get hurt because of your mistakes. The room erupted into chaos, voices overlapping in a cacophony of accusations and denials. Martin tried to calm everyone down, but his attempts were futile. Delilah's mask was cracking, and with it, the fragile peace we had all been pretending to maintain. In the midst of the turmoil, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a photo of a document, evidence of Delilah's fraudulent activities. The sender was anonymous, but it was clear someone else was involved, someone who wanted the truth to come out. I showed the photo to Delilah, her face going pale as she realized the extent of her exposure. "Who sent this?" she demanded, panic edging her voice. "I don't know," I replied, my mind racing. "But it changes everything." The revelation shifted the power dynamic, leaving Delilah vulnerable and exposed. The stakes had never been higher, and I was standing at the precipice of a decision that could change everything. As the family dinner imploded around us, I realized that this was my moment to choose, between revenge and justice, between tearing down and building up. And whatever choice I made, it would define not just my future, but Chloe's as well. The aftermath of the dinner left a raw, open wound in the family. I drove home with Chloe, the silence between us heavy with unspoken fears and uncertainties. The document I'd received was now a ticking time bomb, threatening to destroy what little stability we had left. When we got home, Ethan was waiting, concern etched on his face. "How did it go?" he asked, though the answer was written all over my expression. "Worse than expected," I admitted, sinking into the couch. Chloe sat beside me, her shoulders hunched as if trying to make herself smaller. Ethan joined us, his presence a comforting balm. "What's the plan now?" I shook my head, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "I don't know. Delilah's in deeper than I thought, and now this document." Chloe looked up, her eyes wide with worry. "What if she goes to jail?" The question hung in the air, a grim possibility we hadn't fully faced. "We'll figure something out," I promised, though the words felt hollow. The next morning, I received another message, this time with a video attachment. It was footage of Delilah at work, clearly showing her involvement in the fraudulent activities. My heart sank. Whoever was sending these knew exactly how to push us to the brink. I showed the video to Ethan, my hands trembling slightly. "This could ruin her," I said, the enormity of it all hitting me like a tidal wave. "And you?" he asked gently. "What does this mean for you?" I didn't have an answer. The line between justice and revenge blurred, leaving me adrift. I wanted to protect Chloe, but at what cost? Delilah was still my sister, flawed and broken as she was. Later that day, I met with Delilah at a small cafe, hoping to find some way forward. She looked exhausted, the confident facade she always wore now a mere shadow. "Harper," she began, her voice brittle. "I know you have something on me. Just don't do this." "Delilah, it's not about hurting you," I said, trying to reach the sister I once knew. "It's about Chloe. She deserves better." Her eyes flashed with a mix of anger and desperation. "You think I don't know that? Everything I've done, it was for her." "But it's hurting her," I replied, my voice firm but gentle. "And if this gets out, it'll hurt her even more." Delilah looked away, her silence speaking volumes. I realized then that she was trapped, just as much as Chloe was. But before I could press further, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting to one of panic. "I have to go," she said abruptly, standing up. "Delilah, wait." I started, but she was already gone, leaving me with more questions than answers. As I sat there, I realized how close we were to losing everything. The evidence was damning, and the clock was ticking. The path to resolution seemed impossible, and I was left grappling with the harsh reality that sometimes, even the best intentions can lead to devastating consequences. The stakes had never been higher, and I was running out of time to find a way to save not just Chloe, but all of us. The days following my meeting with Delilah were a blur of tension and uncertainty. Chloe had officially moved in with us, her decision a quiet rebellion against the chaos her mother had created. It was a bold move, and one that seemed to shift the very foundation of our family dynamics. But as much as I wanted to protect her, I knew the storm was far from over. The showdown came sooner than expected. Delilah showed up at my doorstep one evening, her expression a mix of desperation and defiance. I opened the door, bracing myself for whatever was about to unfold. "Harper," she said, her voice strained. "We need to talk." I stepped aside, letting her in. Chloe watched from the living room, her face a mask of worry. Delilah's eyes flicked to her daughter, a silent plea passing between them. "What do you want, Delilah?" I asked, keeping my tone steady. She took a deep breath, trying to maintain her composure. "I need that video. If it gets out, I'll lose everything." "And what about Chloe?" I countered, my voice rising. "You've already put her through so much." Delilah's facade cracked, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know I've messed up, Harper, but I'm trying to fix it. By dragging us down with you?" I shot back, the tension between us taut as a wire. Chloe stood up, her voice trembling but firm. "Mom," I can't live like this anymore. I need a safe place. Delilah's gaze softened, the weight of Chloe's words hitting her like a physical blow. I never wanted this for you, Chloe. I thought I was doing what was best. Then let me stay here, Chloe said, her plea hanging in the air. Delilah hesitated, her internal struggle playing out in the silence. Finally, she nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Okay, you can stay with Harper. The unexpected concession was a turning point, but I knew it wasn't the end. Delilah turned to me, her expression a mix of vulnerability and resolve. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. Just help me. I studied her, the sister I'd known and the stranger she'd become. This was the moment I'd been dreading and anticipating, the chance to choose between revenge and redemption. All right, I said, my voice steady but firm. But you have to come clean. No more lies. Delilah nodded, the relief evident in her eyes. I will. I promise. As we stood there, the tension slowly giving way to a fragile truce, I realized that this was more than just a confrontation. It was a chance to heal, to rebuild what had been broken. The path forward wouldn't be easy, but it was a path nonetheless. In that moment, I understood that justice wasn't about punishment, it was about making things right. And as Delilah left, a tentative hope blossomed in my chest. We had faced the storm, and though the skies were still cloudy, there was a glimmer of light on the horizon. The weeks following the confrontation were a mix of rebuilding and reflection. Chloe settled into her new routine with us, her laughter slowly returning, a melody of healing that filled the house. It was a fragile peace, but one that felt precious and hard-earned. Delilah, true to her word, began to make amends. She faced the consequences of her actions at work, taking responsibility in a way I hadn't seen before. It was a start, a step towards redemption, and though the path was long, it was one she was finally willing to walk. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow through the living room, Delilah called. Her voice was softer, more grounded. Harper, I just wanted to say thank you. For everything. I smiled, the weight of our shared history easing just a little. We're family, Delilah. We'll find our way through this. She paused as if gathering her thoughts. I know I've been difficult, but I'm trying to change. For Chloe and for myself. It was a small admission, but it felt monumental. I believe you, I replied, and I meant it. After the call, I found Chloe on the porch, her eyes reflecting the fading light. How are you feeling? I asked, joining her. Better, she said, her voice steady. It's weird, but I think Mom's really trying this time. I nodded, understanding the mix of hope and caution in her words. People can change, Chloe. It's not easy, but it's possible. She turned to me, a question in her eyes. Do you think we'll ever be a normal family? Normal's overrated, I said with a chuckle. But we can be a family that supports each other, that learns from our mistakes. Her smile was small but genuine, a testament to the resilience she'd found within herself. I like that idea. As the days turned into weeks, life found a new rhythm. I decided to decline the job offer from the counseling center, choosing instead to focus on the life we were building here. It was a decision that felt right, rooted in the understanding that home was more than a place. It was the people we chose to share it with. Yet, as we moved forward, a lingering question remained. The identity of the person who had sent the incriminating evidence about Delilah was still a mystery. It was a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit, a reminder that some stories never fully close. But perhaps that was okay. Life, after all, was full of uncertainties. In the quiet moments, I reflected on the journey we'd all taken. The themes of revenge and justice had woven through our lives, challenging us, shaping us. But in the end, it was forgiveness and understanding that paved the way forward. As I watched Chloe and Ethan laughing together over dinner, I felt a deep sense of peace. We had weathered the storm, and though the future was unwritten, I knew we would face it together. And that, more than anything, was the true resolution we'd been searching for.
My name is Emily, and I'm 44 years old, working in television. My husband Tom, also 44, runs a photography studio. We began dating in high school and married at 26. Having been each other's first love, it felt as if we were destined to be together, and we never really considered being with anyone else. When I was 25, I lost my parents in a tragic accident. It was an incredibly difficult time, but having Tom by my side made it bearable. His support was like having an extended family to lean on. After our marriage, Tom moved into the house my parents left me, creating a sense that both my parents and Tom were watching over me. 2 years later, we welcomed a son, and our lives felt complete. Tom was fantastic, sharing household responsibilities and caring for our child, embodying the ideal partner for a working couple like us. However, my mother-in-law Jen had issues with Tom doing household chores. This became a problem about 10 years ago. When our son started elementary school, Jen, who lived a 30-minute train ride away, began visiting more frequently to help with after-school pickups since our son was too young to be left alone. Around this time, Jen's husband Steve had retired and was home more often. Jen, having always been a housewife, disapproved of Tom taking on kitchen duties. She often remarked, "A man shouldn't be in the kitchen, or our generation would never have imagined this." During my first visit to Tom's parents' house, she bluntly asked, "Emily, you're going to quit your job, right?" Her views on women being housewives clashed with my career as a broadcaster, which she didn't seem to appreciate. Despite this, Tom, who knew me from our high school broadcasting club, supported my career ambitions, just as I supported his dream of being a photographer. Our mutual support felt entirely natural. Navigating the demands of nursery school was challenging, and we hoped elementary school would be easier. Unfortunately, the after-school care was less flexible, making us more reliant on Jen. Once she started coming to our house, she criticized everything from improperly folded laundry to dusty corners. Tom would respond calmly, "I handle the laundry. Is that an issue? Or a bit of dust isn't a big deal." Despite this, Jen continued to complain to Tom privately, saying things like, "Aren't you embarrassed to have your husband do the laundry?" Or "This is damaging our reputation." Even though her help was valuable, I remained silent. Jen held traditional views but embraced modern conveniences in her own way. Despite her age, she proudly owned a smartphone and used it to book reservations and access services. She often commented on how technology made things easier, saying, "You have to use these convenient tools." At the time, we relied on a weekly paper-based shopping delivery service, which Jen disapproved of. She argued, "You should shop in person. The delivery fee is a waste." When she discovered that online ordering was possible, she chided me, "Emily, why are you using paper? Online ordering is so much more modern." When Jen would stay late into the evening so Tom and I could prepare dinner, she'd often say, "I need to get back for Steve's dinner. He won't eat if he's alone." And then she'd leave. Steve was completely incapable of handling any household tasks. I once asked Tom, "Why are you so willing to help with chores when you grew up in such an environment?" He explained, "Mom always complained about Dad not helping around the house. I didn't want to be the subject of similar complaints, so I made a point to contribute." It turned out that Jen's frustration with Steve's lack of involvement had led Tom to learn from her negative example. Jen's anger that her husband didn't do housework seemed to fuel her amusement at Tom's willingness to pitch in. I couldn't quite figure out what would make her happy, but it seemed she enjoyed complaining, so I tried to keep my distance. At that time, I had no inkling of the drastic steps Jen would take, including selling our house without permission. That summer, my company offered me an exceptional opportunity, a 2-month business trip overseas to cover the World Championship in sports broadcasting. It was a rare chance and a significant career milestone. After discussing it with Tom, who was swamped with work and worried about managing our son John's care while also working, Jen, who had overheard our conversation, volunteered to help. Despite my reservations due to past experiences, with no other options available, I agreed to let Jen take care of things at home. We had considered moving Tom and John to his parents' house, but the commute to school would be impractical, so Jen agreed to stay at our home on weekdays. After completing the sports broadcast and returning exhausted but satisfied, I arrived home one afternoon to find Jen waiting at the entrance, looking as if she'd been anticipating my return. As I prepared to thank her for managing the house, she delivered an astonishing revelation: the house sold for $300,000. And I'm taking the entire amount. My tired mind struggled to process her words. "This house, our house?" I asked, incredulous. Jen's eyes sparkled with a mix of triumph and mischief as she confirmed, "Yes, this house." Confused and trying to make sense of the situation, I asked, "That's it?" Jen laughed, exclaiming, "What are you talking about, Emily? There's a registration certificate in your name. I'm not falling for that." She stood there, arms crossed, looking quite self-assured. Realizing the conversation was going nowhere, I decided to redirect the discussion. Let's set that aside for now. Why did you sell the house? I inquired. Jen's eyes were bloodshot as she replied. What belongs to the wife belongs to the husband. And therefore to me. I'm using the money to build a new house. Her declaration made me uneasy. A new house? For whom? I asked, feeling a growing sense of fear. For Steve and me. You and Tom will live there too. This way, Tom won't have to do any more household chores, she said. She insisted with a serious expression. I raised him not to do such things, and I won't allow Tom to do household chores in the future. As I pieced together the story, I learned that shortly after our marriage, when Tom was in the kitchen, Jen had told him to let me handle the chores. Tom had responded, "No, this house is Emily's. I need to do at least this much." Jen had misunderstood this as Tom doing chores solely because he was living in my house. She had always believed that Tom didn't actually want to do household work and preferred to focus on his job. The concept of a working couple sharing household responsibilities was foreign to her. I later discovered that after Steve retired, his pension was lower than anticipated, and he struggled to find re-employment. This financial insecurity made them anxious about continuing to live in their rented apartment, leading them to take such drastic and irrational steps. I tried to clarify, this house isn't mine alone, and Tom considers household chores a normal part of our partnership. Jen cut me off. Lies. All lies. You're just twisting things to fit your own narrative. I wanted to point out that it was actually she who was distorting the facts, but I needed to get the details straight first. Where did you sell the house? I asked. To AA Real Estate, she replied. They did an easy online assessment. We sent them the necessary documents, and they sold it without any trouble. It's such a convenient world now. She had found an online real estate agent who conducted a quick evaluation and convinced her that the timing was perfect to sell. You won't get such a high price for an old house anywhere else, they claimed. Jen added, you should be grateful, selling a 20-year-old house for $300,000. I picked a good real estate agent, didn't I? I looked up the real estate company online and found a website that seemed legitimate. When I tried calling them, there was no answer. I asked Jen if she had visited the address of the real estate company, and she said, no, I didn't need to. You don't have to visit places in person anymore. I told her, go to this address tomorrow. If you don't, I won't discuss this further. Reluctantly, she agreed to go. The next day, Jen called me in tears. The real estate company isn't at the address. There was only a rundown wooden house that looked abandoned. I was so taken aback by her naivety that I couldn't help but laugh. When she returned, she explained that while I was away, she had found a house registration certificate in my name and thought she could sell it. She had hired an agent who deceitfully assured her, even if you're not the owner, having that certificate is enough. Just provide us with a family register and a signature certificate. Believing them, she sent all the requested documents. When a supposed buyer was found, they asked for a deposit, half of the commission fee. Jen had transferred $4,800, which was half of the $9,600 commission for the supposed $300,000 sale. I contacted the police to report the fraud. 2 officers came to our house and explained that this type of scam, where fraudsters pose as real estate agents, has become increasingly common. They offer free evaluations, request official documents, introduce fake buyers, collect fees, and then disappear. With many vacant properties and the ability to fake addresses, these scams have proliferated. The fraudsters likely used a fake address to receive the documents. Jen was visibly shaken as she answered the officer's questions. Let me clarify, one officer asked, tilting his head. The house deed you sent belongs to your daughter-in-law, correct? Jen, realizing the seriousness of the situation, replied, yes, that's right. As the investigation unfolded, Jen nervously began, I thought it, well, belonged to my son. But the officer quickly countered, even if it was your son's, isn't it odd to try and sell someone else's house? His incredulous tone made Jen blush and stammer, no, it's not like that. Emily asked me to. She wanted to get the house appraised for sale. Offering a nonsensical excuse, the officer turned to me and asked, is that true? I simply replied, no, I didn't ask for that. The officer, uncertain of whom to trust, seemed to side with me over my visibly distressed mother-in-law. You shouldn't sell property on your own, the officer admonished. This is just outrageous. Jen bit her lip and stared at the ground. Remaining silent, the officer, now convinced of Jen's reckless behavior, asked about the deed registration. "You sent a copy?" he inquired. When Jen weakly responded, "No, it was the original," the officer looked even more dismayed. He turned to me and asked, "Will you be filing a theft report?" I answered, "No, the document is now invalid. In fact, the house has already been sold to someone else. We were able to complete the sale with just the registration identification due to recent legal changes. The deed itself was no longer required for the transaction, so I kept it as a memento." Jen, unaware of this change, mistakenly believed that the deed meant I still owned the house. Typically, real estate agents would request or verify the deed themselves, but fraudsters often bypassed these details. Embarrassed, Jen shot me a resentful look and muttered, "Why didn't you sell the house yourself? It's a curse to sell your parents' home. People with flashy jobs are like this." I met her gaze and explained, "Tom needed the money to start his photography business. The house was our most valuable asset, so we sold it to an acquaintance and rented it back." Jen's face turned pale with surprise as she exclaimed, "Tom, why?" I explained that Tom needed a substantial lump sum to fund his dream. After hearing this, Jen's shoulders slumped, and she murmured, "So Tom's success is because you sold the house, Emily?" Well, I could say that, but I believe spouses should support each other through everything. "We're in this together," I replied. Jen suddenly broke down in tears. "I wanted to work too," she sobbed. "My husband can't do anything. Even now, after his retirement, he does nothing. What has my life amounted to?" Her continued complaints against Tom made it difficult for the police officer to complete the report. Ultimately, a fraud report was filed, but even after 10 years, the perpetrators remain at large, and it's unlikely the money will ever be recovered. After the incident, Steve became vigilant about Jen's finances, taking control of all monetary matters and restricting her access to money. Jen had to request cash from him for any needs. "It's so suffocating," Jen complained to Tom, who reminded her that she brought this on herself. With no disposable income, Jen now works through senior job listings, teaching elderly individuals how to use smartphones. She's well regarded for her empathy with older learners. Steve, perhaps due to his pride, found senior jobs unsuitable and quit shortly after starting, providing no income. Now, Jen is busier, often leaving Steve with household duties while she goes out. Interestingly, Steve has developed an interest in cooking and is becoming quite skilled. The roles in Tom's parents' house have reversed, but both seem to have found new fulfillment. As for me, after my overseas business trip, I successfully advanced in my career and now anchor the evening news. Tom's photography studio is flourishing, and we've managed to save enough to consider buying back and renovating the family home. We are grateful to our acquaintance for allowing us to keep the house despite the unfortunate incident. It turned out well for Tom's parents in the end. Our son is turning 17 and approaching adulthood, so I've shared the story with him as a cautionary tale about internet fraud. To preserve his grandparents' dignity, I've kept the part about them attempting to sell our house a secret. Hi, I'm Mary, and today I want to share how my life with my husband Aaron took a completely unexpected turn. Our days used to be peaceful, with both of us working from home and enjoying the simple routine we had built. It was just the two of us, comfortable in our rhythm, until one day when Aaron's sister, Karen, arrived at our doorstep with her daughter Teresa. It wasn't unusual for Karen to drop Teresa off for a few hours here and there, but this time was different. This time, it felt like the start of something we weren't quite prepared for. "Hey, I'm swamped today. Can Teresa stay with you?" Karen asked. Her voice hurried as she barely waited for an answer. Before we could respond, she had already placed the stroller inside and dashed off. At first, we didn't mind. Teresa's bright laughter filled our home, a sweet distraction we hadn't known we needed. But what started as a few hours turned into regular, unannounced visits. The stays grew longer, and Karen's drop-offs became more frequent. One evening, as Aaron and I were knee-deep in a deadline for work, Karen called. "I'm heading out of town for a few days. I need to leave Teresa with you," she said, clearly frazzled. "Karen, we're swamped. We've got a huge presentation tomorrow." I began to protest, but she had already hung up. An hour later, Teresa was at our door, fast asleep in her carrier, blissfully unaware of the chaos her mother had just added to our lives. Days passed, then weeks, and Aaron's patience began to fray. We can't keep living like this. It's not fair to any of us, especially Teresa, he said one night, frustrated as we rearranged our schedules yet again. I know. We need to talk to Karen. We can't keep doing this without some kind of structure. I agreed, hopeful that we could find a solution. That weekend, over coffee, we tried to have a serious conversation with Karen. Look, we love Teresa, but we need more notice. We have our own responsibilities. And this isn't working, Aaron said, keeping his tone calm but firm. Yeah, I get it. I'll try to be better about giving you guys a heads up, Karen replied, though her dismissive tone told us she wasn't taking it seriously. Despite the conversation, nothing changed. Karen's empty promises only led to more last-minute calls and even longer stays. The strain on our marriage grew as we struggled to balance work with the unexpected role of part-time parents. But through it all, one thing became clear: our bond with Teresa was growing stronger. Her presence was the one bright spot in the whirlwind of disruption, a small ray of joy in the chaos we were learning to navigate. As the weeks turned into months, I realized that despite the challenges, Teresa had become a part of our family in a way we never expected. But what we didn't see coming was the storm brewing on the horizon, one that would test us in ways we couldn't have imagined. It all started one afternoon as Aaron and I were wrapping up at a conference. My phone buzzed relentlessly with notifications, frantic messages from our neighbor and several missed calls from an unknown number. My heart pounded as I stepped outside to call back. You need to come home right away. There's a serious situation with Teresa. Our neighbor's shaky voice sent chills down my spine. Aaron and I raced home, our thoughts spinning with worst-case scenarios. As we pulled into our normally quiet street, my stomach sank. Police cars lined the road, and a social services vehicle was parked in front of our house. The scene looked straight out of a nightmare. What's going on? We're Teresa's aunt and uncle, Aaron said, trying to keep calm as we approached one of the officers. We received a report about a child left alone. Can you explain why Teresa was unsupervised? The officer asked, his tone firm. Before we could respond, Karen appeared, pushing her way through the small crowd. Her face was a mix of panic and defiance. This is all a misunderstanding. I just left her for a little bit. They're always home, Karen blurted out, her voice shaking. Karen, what were you thinking? We told you we were at a conference. I tried to keep my anger in check, but it was nearly impossible. The social worker on site stepped forward, her expression serious. We need to clarify what happened here. It seems like there's been neglect. No, you don't understand. Aaron jumped in. Teresa isn't our child. Karen dropped her off without telling us. We had no idea she was coming today. The social worker scribbled notes as the officers huddled together. Karen stood nearby, nervously shifting from foot to foot, her bravado rapidly fading. Look, we care for Teresa often, but today was not planned. Karen knew we had important commitments. I explained, hoping to clear up the confusion. The officer nodded, but his expression remained stern. We'll need to verify everything. For now, our priority is Teresa's safety. I glanced over to see Teresa, who was being gently held by another officer. Her little face was filled with confusion and fear, and the sight of her so vulnerable made my heart ache. After hours of questions and phone calls, the immediate crisis subsided. The officers and social worker left, but not before warning us that there would be follow-ups. Karen mumbled a half-hearted apology before slipping away, leaving behind the weight of the day's events. I can't believe she just left Teresa like that. What if something had happened? Aaron's voice was heavy with worry as we sat down later that night. We can't keep going like this, Aaron. Teresa could have been in real danger. Something has to change, I said, my mind racing with the implications. You're right. We need to protect her. And ourselves too. We can't keep living in this uncertainty. Aaron's usual calm was replaced with a newfound determination. The next week, we met with a family lawyer to discuss our options. We've been caring for Teresa more and more, and we're considering fostering or even adoption if that's what's best for her, Aaron said, his voice steady. The lawyer nodded, sorting through paperwork. Fostering is definitely a possibility, but it's a formal process. You'll need to go through home visits, background checks, and several court dates. We're ready for that, I replied, a sense of resolve settling in. The thought of Teresa being anywhere but safe was unbearable. As the legal process began, Karen's visits became sporadic, her personal struggles piling up. When she did come by, the tension between us was palpable. "Why are you doing this? You're trying to take my daughter from me," Karen accused during one of her increasingly rare visits, her voice thick with frustration. "It's not about taking anyone, Karen. It's about what's best for Teresa," Aaron said, his tone firm but calm. "You're her mother, but you've been unreliable. We never know when you'll drop her off or when you'll come back." Karen looked away, her defiance faltering. "I'll get better. I just need time." But deep down, we all knew that Teresa needed more than empty promises. She needed stability, and Aaron and I were ready to give her that, no matter how long the road ahead would be. "I'm her mother. You think you can do this better than me?" Karen's voice cracked, a mix of anger and desperation. "We're doing this because we have to, Karen. Someone has to provide stability for Teresa," I said softly, hoping my words would ease the blow. The legal process dragged on, slow and exhausting. Teresa became more attached to us with each passing day, her life with us a steady routine compared to her mother's sporadic appearances. Every court hearing, every visit from social services felt like stepping into a battle, fighting to give Teresa the normal life she deserved. "Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we've observed Teresa's interaction with you both. It's clear she sees you as her primary caregivers," the social worker noted during one visit, jotting down notes as Teresa played quietly at my feet. "We just want what's best for her," Aaron said, and I squeezed his hand, grateful for his unwavering support. As the court date to decide Teresa's future loomed, Karen's behavior became more erratic. One evening, she called, her voice frantic. "You can't take her from me. I'll fight you," she warned. "We don't want to fight, Karen. We want Teresa to have a stable home. Why can't you see that this is about more than any of us?" I tried to reason with her, but my words seemed to fall on deaf ears. The day of the ruling arrived, and we sat in the courtroom, hands tightly clasped, the weight of the past months hanging heavy in the air. Karen sat across from us, looking exhausted and defeated. "The court has decided to grant temporary custody to Mary Ann Aaron Smith, with the possibility of moving toward adoption if conditions do not improve for the biological mother," the judge declared, his voice calm but final. Relief washed over me, though it was laced with sadness for Karen. As we left the courthouse, Karen approached us, her expression softer than I'd seen in a long time. "Take good care of her, that's all I ask," she said quietly, her voice resigned. "We will, Karen, we promise," Aaron replied, his tone full of compassion. As we drove home, the sun was setting in shades of orange and red, casting a warm glow over everything. I glanced at Teresa in the rearview mirror, her eyes fluttering with sleep but content. The road ahead would be long, and undoubtedly difficult, but as long as Teresa was with us, it felt right. Her laughter, a sound that had become as vital as air, filled the car, and in that moment, I knew we had made the right decision, no matter how hard it had been to get here. "Let's get this room ready for Teresa. She deserves a space of her own," Aaron said as we stood in the guest room, now destined to be transformed into Teresa's nursery. Paint swatches and fabric samples were scattered on the floor, a colorful mix of possibilities. "I think she'd love this sunshine yellow," I suggested, holding up a cheerful swatch. "It's bright and happy, just like her." Aaron smiled, and we set to work, painting walls, assembling furniture, and decorating the room with playful decals. As we worked, our conversations often circled back to Karen, how we could help maintain a relationship between her and Teresa. Despite everything, we knew it was important for Teresa to stay connected to her mother, even if our home would now be where she found her sense of belonging. "It's important for Teresa to know her mother, no matter what's happened," I said, smoothing a decal onto the wall. "Absolutely. I'll reach out to the social worker and set up a schedule for supervised visits. It needs to be structured and safe," Aaron agreed, his voice steady and thoughtful. The first supervised visit was scheduled for the following week at a local park. When Karen arrived, she looked nervous but hopeful. Teresa ran toward her, giggling as she flung herself into her mother's arms. "It's so good to see you, Teresa," Karen whispered, hugging her tightly. "I've missed you so much." "We've set some ground rules, Karen. It's important that these visits remain positive for Teresa," I said gently, watching them. "I understand," I don't want to cause any more trouble. I just want to be a part of her life, even if it has to be like this, Karen replied, avoiding my gaze. As Teresa and Karen played together, Aaron and I talked about our next steps. We should keep these visits regular, but always supervised. Maybe down the line, we can revisit the terms, I suggested, watching as Teresa's laughter filled the park. Let's see how things go first. We can adjust if Karen continues to show progress, Aaron replied, ever cautious. Over the next few months, the visits became a regular part of our lives. Karen seemed more grounded, her interactions with Teresa growing more natural, though the weight of past events still hovered as a reminder of the boundaries in place. During one visit, Karen appeared more upbeat than usual. I've been taking some classes, she shared during a quiet moment. I'm trying to get a better job. I want to be someone Teresa can be proud of. That's great, Karen. It's important for Teresa to see you working on yourself, I replied, feeling a cautious sense of hope. As time passed, Aaron and I began to reassess the situation. Do you think we should give Karen a little more flexibility with the visits? I asked one evening, reflecting on her progress. Maybe, Aaron said, thoughtful as always. Let's talk to the social worker first. Karen's been doing well, but we should make sure it's the right time before relaxing the rules. With every step, whether decorating Teresa's room or navigating the complexities of supervised visits, Aaron and I found our rhythm in this new chapter of our lives. The challenges had strengthened us, and Teresa's laughter had become the heart of our home. Every decision, every effort we made, was to protect that joy. As we looked toward the future, cautious yet hopeful, I felt a quiet confidence that we were shaping something beautiful for Teresa, for us, and even for Karen. Can you believe how fast Teresa is growing up? She's already reading, Aaron said one evening, watching Teresa curled up with a picture book. It's amazing, I replied, smiling. She's like a little sponge, soaking up everything. At one of our family barbecues, Karen arrived a bit early to help set up, a sign of how much she had changed over the years. You know, Aaron, Mary, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for Teresa. Seeing her so happy and healthy means the world to me, Karen said, handing me a stack of plates to arrange on the table. We're glad you're here too, Karen. It's been great for Teresa to have you in her life in a way that's healthy for everyone, Aaron replied. Hey, Mom, look what I drew at school today. Teresa ran over, waving a colorful drawing of our family, with Karen included. That's beautiful, sweetie. You included everyone, I praised, and Teresa's face lit up with joy. Yeah, I wanted it to have all the people I love, Teresa said, pointing to each figure she had drawn. As the afternoon faded, Karen joined me at the table, watching Teresa play with her cousins. She's really thriving with you. I've been going to therapy, working on myself. It's not easy, but seeing Teresa like this makes it worth it. It sounds like you're making real progress, Karen. I'm glad to hear that, I said, genuinely happy for her efforts. Yeah, I just wish I'd sought help sooner, but I guess we all come to things in our own time, Karen reflected, her voice tinged with regret but also hope. As Teresa's birthday approached, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Aaron and I had taken on roles we never expected, but now, I couldn't imagine our lives any other way. We had created a family not just by blood, but through choice, love, and patience. Watching our little girl laugh and grow, surrounded by a tapestry of love and resilience, I knew we had achieved something truly wonderful. Now that our story has come to a close, I'd like to pose a thought-provoking question to all of you. Do you think Karen should have been given a chance to be more involved in Teresa's life earlier, given her efforts to improve herself? Or did Mary and Aaron make the right choice by waiting until she demonstrated her stability? This touches on themes of redemption and trust, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts in the comments below. How would you balance a child's well-being with the rights of a parent trying to turn their life around? If you enjoyed this story and the discussion it prompted, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Your engagement helps us continue sharing these stories. Hi, I'm Emma. Before diving into the story from our family barbecue, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. It was a sunny day, and the backyard was alive with laughter and the aroma of burgers grilling. Alex and I were hosting our annual barbecue at his parents' house, and the atmosphere was relaxed with everyone catching up over cold drinks and homemade food. "Emma, can you pass me the potato salad?" Alex asked, flipping another burger. "Sure," I answered, weaving my way through family members lounging on the lawn and in picnic chairs. Near the grill stood Alex's sister, Karen, who was keeping her distance from the festivities. Karen always valued her personal space, especially here where she still had a room at their parents' house despite not living there anymore. "Hey, Karen, why don't you join us for a game of cornhole?" I called out, hoping to include her in the fun. "No thanks, Emma. I'm just enjoying the view from here," she responded, her smile tight with an undercurrent of tension. As the afternoon progressed, the downstairs bathroom became a popular spot, with a steady line forming outside. Seeking a break, I remembered the upstairs bathroom, which was rarely used. I excused myself and headed upstairs, enjoying the cooler air and the quieter atmosphere. When I reached the top, I heard faint music coming from Karen's old room, her private retreat. Relieved to be away from the crowded downstairs, I entered the upstairs bathroom. It was beautifully decorated with intricate tiles and lush plants, a welcome change from the simpler one below. After a quick freshening up, I stepped out feeling rejuvenated. Suddenly, Karen appeared at the end of the hallway, her face flushed with anger. "Emma, what do you think you're doing?" Caught off guard, I responded, "I just needed to use the bathroom." The other one was occupied. "This is my bathroom. You can't just come in here whenever you want," Karen snapped. I didn't realize it was a big deal. "I'm sorry if I upset you," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. Her eyes narrowed, her voice cold. "You should have waited downstairs. You know how I feel about my space." I tried to defuse the situation. "I understand, Karen. I didn't mean to intrude. It was urgent." Her reaction was immediate and shocking, a sudden push that sent me stumbling backward. My feet lost their grip, and I felt the world tilt as I fell toward the stairs. The last thing I remember before everything went black was the sound of my own scream echoing off the walls. What started as a simple bathroom break quickly turned into a nightmare. I lay crumpled at the bottom of the stairs, pain radiating through my arm and head as the sounds of the barbecue faded into a distant hum. Karen stood at the top of the stairs, her face a mix of shock and defiance. "You pushed her, I saw it," Alex's voice boomed as he rushed to my side, his hands gently checking over me. "Karen, what were you thinking?" Alex's mom exclaimed from behind, her voice filled with disbelief. "It was an accident." She startled me. Karen's voice trembled, but there was still an edge of anger. "An accident, Karen?" "She's hurt," Alex snapped back, his concern quickly turning into anger as he cradled my head in his lap. "I told her not to use my bathroom." "She never listens." "Enough, Karen. This isn't about a bathroom. Emma could be seriously injured," Alex's dad said sternly, dialing for an ambulance. Groaning, I tried to sit up, but the pain in my arms surged, and I cried out, "I think it's broken." Amidst the chaos, Alex's aunt, who had come outside to see what was happening, asked in a tone of utter confusion and dismay, "Why would you do this, Karen?" I want my space to be respected," Karen murmured, more to herself than to anyone else, as if trying to justify her actions. The sound of sirens approached, breaking the tense silence that had fallen over the backyard. Paramedics rushed in, stabilizing my arm and preparing me for the hospital. Alex stayed by my side, his hand squeezing mine, a silent promise of support. As I was wheeled away, I glimpsed Karen, isolated by her actions, as family members gathered in small clusters, discussing what had just transpired. Their faces were etched with anger, shock, and disappointment. "This can't just be brushed aside," Alex whispered to his father, his voice filled with a resolve that told me this incident would forever change our family dynamics. The last thing I saw before the ambulance doors closed was Karen's conflicted face watching me leave and Alex's reassuring glance, letting me know that no matter what, we were in this together. In the sterile hospital room, the smell of antiseptic mingled with the dull ache in my arm. Alex hovered nearby, his face a mixture of worry and frustration. "I can't believe Karen would go this far. It's insane," he muttered, pacing. "Have you spoken to your parents? What's everyone saying?" My voice was weak, but I needed to know. Some are saying it's a misunderstanding, that Karen didn't mean it, but how can anyone justify pushing someone down the stairs? Alex's voice cracked with frustration. I know it's hard. She's your sister, but she hurt you badly. I know. I'm so sorry, Emma. I can't wrap my head around it. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Alex's cousin, Jenny. Emma, we're all shocked. Some of the family are siding with Karen, saying you provoked her by not respecting her boundaries. Reading it aloud, I felt a surge of frustration. Provoked by using a bathroom? That's absurd. I don't care what they say. I'm with you. This isn't something we can just sweep under the rug. Alex squeezed my hand reassuringly. At that moment, Dr. Martin walked in, his expression serious. How are we feeling, Emma? We've got your x-rays back. You have a clean break in your forearm, but thankfully no serious head injuries. We're setting you up for a cast, and you'll need plenty of rest. Thank you, doctor. Do you know when I can go home? I asked, eager to leave the hospital despite everything. Tomorrow, Dr. Martin replied. Dr. Martin's departure left a silence in the room. He had said, if everything looks good overnight, we want to ensure there are no complications from the concussion. As he left, Alex sat down beside me, his expression grave. We need to figure out what to do about Karen. This can't continue, Alex. It's not just about me anymore, it's about making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. She needs serious help, I said, feeling the gravity of the situation more than ever. You're right. I'll talk to my parents again. This isn't just a family squabble, it's serious, Alex agreed. As night fell, the rhythmic beeping of hospital monitors accompanied my restless thoughts. Tomorrow, I'd be going home, but real healing, both physical and emotional, was only just beginning. Back at home, the atmosphere in the living room was thick with tension. The usual chatter was replaced by a heavy silence as we gathered for the family meeting Alex had called. Every seat was occupied, and all eyes occasionally flicked to the empty chair, save for Karen. When Karen finally walked in, her presence seemed to chill the room, sending waves of discomfort through everyone. You didn't need to call everyone like this, Karen muttered, avoiding eye contact as she took her seat. We're here because what you did to Emma is unacceptable, Karen. You hurt her badly, and we need to address it, Alex said firmly, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by a serious tone. Karen, why did you push Emma? Grandma asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. It was an accident. I've explained 1,000 times. She invaded my space, and I reacted. That's all there is to it, Karen's tone was defensive, her arms crossed. That's not all there is to it, Karen. You could have seriously injured Emma, or worse, I said, my voice steady despite the pain. A bathroom isn't worth someone's safety. How can you justify hurting someone over something so trivial? Karen shifted uncomfortably. I told her before about using my things, she never listens. I didn't know using a bathroom would lead to being hospitalized, I replied, my voice firm. Karen, we need to feel safe around each other. If we can't, then what kind of family are we? My voice grew stronger, bolstered by nods of agreement from around the room. It's about respect, Karen. Alex added, what if something worse had happened? Would you still justify it as protecting your personal space? Karen looked around, her bravado fading as she met the eyes of family members. None of them were on her side. I didn't think it was that serious, she said, her voice faltering. It is serious. It's about more than just a bathroom, it's about how we treat each other, understanding, and respecting boundaries that matter, I continued, keeping my gaze steady on her. You're all making this into something bigger than it needs to be, Karen said abruptly, standing up and pushing her chair back with a clatter. This is exactly the problem, Karen. Even now, you're not taking responsibility for your actions, Alex said, his disappointment clear. With that, Karen stormed out, the door slamming behind her with a resounding echo. The remaining family members exchanged glances, the air filled with a mix of relief and sadness. Alex reached for my hand, squeezing it reassuringly. We'll sort this out, Emma, together, he whispered, As the family began to discuss how to heal and move forward, united by a renewed understanding of what truly mattered, weeks passed, and my recovery progressed steadily. Alex was by my side every step of the way, his support unwavering. Our bond, forged through adversity, felt stronger than ever. Conversations about Karen grew sparse, and her presence in our lives naturally diminished, much like the autumn leaves drifting from the trees. I heard Karen lost her job, Alex mentioned one evening as we sat on the porch, enjoying the refreshing cool air. Really? What happened? I asked, despite my efforts to distance myself from her. It seems she had an altercation at work. Her temper flared up again, and a few friends have backed away from her, Alex said with a sigh, his disappointment evident. It's unfortunate. I wish it hadn't come to this, but maybe it's the wake-up call she needed. I hope this might lead Karen to some self-reflection. Yeah, maybe. How are you feeling about everything now? Alex looked at me, searching for any signs of lingering pain. Stronger in many ways. It's odd, but facing such betrayal from someone you considered family makes you realize the importance of standing up for yourself. I took a moment to absorb the quiet around us. And us. Alex reached for my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. We're good. Better than good. This ordeal made me realize just how lucky I am to have you, he said with a smile that mirrored the deep peace I felt. As days turned into weeks, the impact of Karen's actions continued to echo through her life, isolating her from those she once held close. It was a harsh reality born of her own choices. One afternoon, my mom called. I just wanted to check in and let you know that we've all learned a lot from what happened. It's brought us closer and made us more aware of what's truly important. I feel that too, Mom. It's been a tough lesson, but a necessary one, I replied, my conviction stronger than ever. Reflecting on the events, I recognized the power of self-respect and the critical importance of boundaries. What happened with Karen tested my resolve, but also highlighted the resilience of a family willing to confront and address toxic behavior. As I sat back and looked at Alex, an overwhelming sense of gratitude washed over me. Life would move forward, and while the scars remained, they stood as a testament to a battle fought and won against toxicity, ensuring a safer, happier future for both of us. Turning my gaze to the sunset, I knew this wasn't just the end of a painful chapter but the beginning of something new, something better, forged from the lessons of the past. Now that the story has concluded, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your views on setting personal boundaries within a family? Is there a point where enforcing these boundaries can go too far, or should personal space always be respected, no matter the context? Share your opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support is invaluable and helps us continue bringing you stories that spark conversation and reflection. Hi, I'm Ella, a 28-year-old marketing professional with a lifelong dream of a perfect wedding, but everything changed on a day I will never forget. I was always the dependable one in our family. My younger sister, Lily, was the star of our parents' world, and while I didn't mind, I never imagined the depth of betrayal that awaited me. One afternoon, I walked into my parents' house, buzzing with excitement to finalize the last details of my wedding. As soon as I entered, the scent of fresh paint and sawdust hit me. Confused, I made my way to the kitchen, which had been outdated just weeks ago. Now, it resembled something from a high-end home renovation magazine. Mom, Dad, what's going on here? I asked, my voice echoing off the newly installed tiles. Oh, Ella, it's wonderful, isn't it? My mom exclaimed. We decided it was time Lily had a kitchen worthy of her talents. Her old one was so cramped. Yeah, Ella, look at this space. It's amazing, Lily added, her voice full of excitement. A chill settled in my stomach as I took in the transformation. I didn't want to ask, but my curiosity got the better of me. Where did the money for this come from? My dad cleared his throat and looked away. Mom's voice was unusually firm when she responded. Well, since Lily needed it more, it came from your wedding fund. My heart sank. The wedding fund, the money my parents had been saving for me for years. Tears welled up in my eyes as I struggled to find words. You used it for this without even asking me? Ella's face fell as she processed the news. I didn't know. I thought they had extra savings. Enough, I snapped, my voice sharper than intended. I turned to my parents, seeing the defensive look in their eyes. There was no point in arguing, their decision was made. I see where your priorities lie, I said coldly. Consider yourselves uninvited to the wedding. But Ella, my mom began. No, I interrupted. If my dreams mean so little to you, then I don't want you there. I walked away from the pristine kitchen, each step feeling like a fracture in my heart. By the time I reached my car, tears streamed down my face. But with them came a new resolve, one as unyielding as the granite countertops that had replaced my wedding dreams. I would still have my wedding, but it would be on my terms, smaller, simpler, and entirely mine. As for my family, they had made their choice. Now, I was making mine, to build a life where I came first, starting with the one day that was supposed to be all about me. After canceling my parents' invitations, I hoped the drama would subside, but it only intensified as I adjusted my wedding plans. Rumors began to circulate, fueled by my parents showing off Lily's new kitchen, even suggesting it was a better investment than a wedding. Can you believe they actually said that? My best friend Tara asked, her voice thick with disbelief as we sat over coffee. A kitchen is more important than your wedding? I replied, my voice tinged with bitterness. Apparently, my life's biggest milestone is less significant than a remodel. Tara shook her head, frustration evident. It's unbelievable. In that moment of fresh anger, I realized that canceling their invitations wasn't enough. They needed to face the consequences publicly. I needed an ally who understood exactly what I was going through. Reconnecting with my Uncle Mike, who had distanced himself from the family years ago, was like finding a lifeline. He'd always been critical of their shallow values. You know, Ella, he said, his voice rough with disapproval as we sat in his cozy, book-lined study. I've always known they favored Lily, but this is something else. Mike's eyes narrowed as he leaned forward. What if we didn't let this go? What if we showed everyone exactly who they are? His plan was simple but brilliant. Host a family reunion, the kind we hadn't had in years, where we could expose my parents. Planning the reunion gave me something to focus on besides my scaled-down wedding. Mike and I worked through guest lists and old family contacts, sending out invitations with a hint of a big surprise. On the day of the reunion, my stomach was a tight knot of nerves as relatives trickled into Mike's spacious backyard, buzzing with curiosity. I spotted my parents arriving, their faces a mix of confusion and cautious pleasure. Once everyone had gathered, Mike clinked his glass, calling for silence. Family, he began, his voice carrying over the murmurs. We're here today to celebrate transparency among us. My parents exchanged uneasy glances as Mike continued. And what better way to do that than to address some misconceptions? He turned to me and gave a small nod. Taking a deep breath, I stood up to face the crowd. Many of you have heard about or seen Lily's new kitchen. I began, my voice steady but emotional. What you might not know is how it was funded. Whispers rippled through the crowd as I held up copies of bank statements and contractor bills, clearly showing the trail of my wedding fund leading into the kitchen remodel. The money set aside for my wedding since I was a child was used without my consent. I continued. My dream was deemed less important than a set of fancy kitchen appliances. Lily looked mortified, staring at her feet while my parents' faces turned a deep shade of red. Mike took over, his voice stern. We stand for fairness and support in this family, he said. Today, we've seen a clear example of the opposite. Let's reflect on what that means for us moving forward. Why would your parents do that? An aunt asked, disbelief in her voice. It seems fairness was overlooked in favor of necessity, as they saw it, I replied, my bitterness heavy. Lily, flushed with embarrassment, stood up. I didn't know, Ella. I swear I didn't know they used your money. It's not just about the money, Lily, I said, frustration seeping through. It's about trust, respect. Our intention was never to hurt anyone, Dad interjected defensively. Lily needed help, and we made a tough call. A tough call, I echoed, my voice rising. I couldn't hide the incredulity in my voice. What about my wedding? What about my dreams? The relatives shifted uncomfortably, the air thick with tension. It seems to me, an older cousin spoke up. You focused only on one daughter. What about Ella? Yeah. How do you justify choosing between your children like that? Another added. The room buzzed with heated voices as family members took sides, some expressing sympathy, others outrage. Enough. Mike's voice cut through the clamor. This isn't just a family squabble over money. It's a revelation of priorities. Today, we've seen where those priorities lie. The room fell into a heavy silence. My parents' usual confidence crumbled under the weight of the disapproving glares from around them. The festive mood of the reunion had turned somber and uncomfortable. Relatives began to leave, offering me sympathetic glances and pats on the back as they went. "I'm sorry, Ella," Lily muttered as she passed, avoiding my gaze. "Don't be," I replied. "It's not your fault, but it's clear now I need to step away from them." The drive home was quiet. My earlier resolve to expose the truth mingled with a deep sadness. Yet amidst that sadness, there was a strange sense of relief. The truth was out, and with it came the opportunity to rebuild, not just my wedding plans, but my life, free from the shadows of favoritism and unspoken resentment. After the reunion, the fallout was swift and widespread. Whispers of betrayal echoed through the community, casting my parents in an unflattering light they had never anticipated. Walking through town became a gauntlet of hushed conversations and sidelong glances. At the grocery store or the post office, I'd overhear snippets like, "Did you hear about the Johnsons? They used their daughter's wedding fund for a kitchen remodel." "Yeah." And at the expense of their other daughter. Poor Ella. The community's judgment was a cold comfort. It wasn't joy I felt, but validation. It came slowly, but it was there, a recognition that my pain had been seen, even if by strangers. One brisk Saturday morning, I ran into Lily at the local market. She approached hesitantly, a basket hanging awkwardly on her arm. Save it, Lily. I'm not in the mood," I interrupted, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she said softly. "Whether you knew or not doesn't change what happened," I replied, my tone flat. "They chose Lily. They always choose. And somehow, I'm always the one paying the price." Lily looked down, hurt filling her eyes. But this time, I didn't soften. I couldn't. "I need space, Lily. Space to heal and rebuild my life without the chaos our parents bring." She nodded slowly, stepping back. "I understand. If you ever need anything, just know I'm here." I watched her walk away. Her shoulders slumped, mirroring the weight I had carried for so long, but I felt lighter, stronger. Months trickled by, and rumors of my parents' misfortunes began to reach me. Their once thriving boutique, a cornerstone of their social lives, was faltering. Regular customers, once charmed by their hospitality, now saw through them. "No thanks. I can't trust them after what they did to their daughter," I'd overhear. As their reputation crumbled, so did their financial stability. Whispers of bankruptcy began circulating, a sharp contrast to the comfort and privilege they had always known. Amidst their decline, I found my own rise. My wedding day arrived, not with the grandiosity I had once envisioned, but with a heartfelt, genuine celebration. The venue was modest, filled only with close friends and a few family members who had stood by me. Each moment was a step toward mending my sense of self-worth. "Congratulations, Ella," Uncle Mike toasted, his eyes shining with pride. "Here's to new beginnings and true happiness." The reception was filled with laughter and dancing, the air fragrant with jasmine and illuminated by the soft glow of fairy lights. It was perfect, not despite its simplicity, but because of it. My career also flourished, taking exciting new turns. Promotions came, and with them, opportunities to speak at marketing panels, sharing my experiences and inspiring others facing their own professional challenges. My life, once marred by the toxic chaos of unmet expectations, was now filled with choices I made for myself, surrounded by people who uplifted rather than used me. One evening, as I sat on my balcony, a cold breeze playing with the chimes, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. Betrayal had been a harsh teacher, but the lessons of self-worth and resilience were invaluable. Gazing at the stars, I realized that sometimes the hardest trials forge the strongest souls. My parents' choices had set everything in motion, but it was my own choices that defined my ending. In that quiet moment, I knew I had chosen well. This concludes Ella's journey of confronting betrayal and discovering her path to happiness. What are your thoughts on her decision to sever ties with her family? Was it the right choice? Or could things have been handled differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the story, Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more compelling tales. Your support helps us bring more stories to life. Don't you even think about cooking with those dirty hands, my son Jack snapped, eyeing the grime embedded in my skin from hours spent at the factory. No matter how hard I scrubbed, the stains wouldn't wash off. Feeling ashamed, I started preparing meals wearing oversized plastic gloves. They were so slippery that one day, I accidentally cut my finger. I've always worked hard to provide for my children, but my eldest, Jack, was embarrassed by me. My name is Emily. After divorcing in my 30s, I relied on my hairdressing qualifications to juggle jobs between a barbershop and a factory, raising my 2 boys on my own. I'm 55 now. The divorce was because of my ex-husband's drinking, despite his high education and income. Alcohol turned him violent. I was constantly afraid for our sons, so I made the difficult decision to leave, taking the boys with me. Dirty hands. Huh, you could at least take care of them, Jack said one day, his eyes filled with disdain. He's always been a bit of a germaphobe, obsessed with cleanliness. Brilliant in school, he graduated from a prestigious university, but his words stung. I wash them so much that my skin cracks, I replied. I don't have time to take better care of them. Jack shot me another look of contempt before leaving the room. Mom works hard, my younger son, Sam, chimed in. She deals with machine oil at the factory and cuts hair all day. Unlike Jack, Sam doesn't care much for academics, but he's taught himself programming and works as a freelance engineer from home due to his weak health. We've lived together in our small apartment, scraping by. Jack had wanted to move out as soon as he graduated, but I could barely afford his tuition, let alone help him live independently. You've been working all these years, and this is all you've managed to save? Jack would often say bitterly. Are you secretly spending the money on yourself? Dressed in worn-out clothes. Maybe I just didn't measure up to his expectations. His father, when sober, had a special bond with Jack, and I often wondered if Jack resented me for taking him away. I couldn't be there for him as much as I wanted during his formative years because I was always working. Even after graduation, Jack stayed with us for a while, commuting from home. When he found out I had managed to save some money, he didn't hesitate. Parents who don't know how to make money are such a burden, he said coldly before taking the money and leaving without even telling me where he was going. Jack always admired his father's wealth and education, and when he learned more about it, he criticized me for leaving. He believed that if I had stayed, we would have had a better life, even if his father was a drunk. Despite our strained relationship, seeing Jack leave to start his own life was bittersweet. I cried that night, alone in bed. But Jack kept coming back. Whenever he was short on money, he'd return, taking what little I had saved for my old age. Sam would try to stop him, but Jack's physical strength always won out, leaving us helpless. Then, one day, I received a message from Jack saying he was getting married. He arranged a family meeting and made it clear I shouldn't embarrass him. Dress properly, he said sharply. Despite his harsh words, I felt a glimmer of hope, thinking that maybe having someone special in his life would change him. Perhaps his future wife would teach him the love I couldn't. I waited anxiously for the details of the meeting, but life continued, and I had to work. During a shift at the factory, my phone rang. It was Jack. My heart lifted. Is it time for the meeting? I asked. No, he replied coldly. Her parents are business people. They're different from us. They've got a keen eye for people, so you don't need to come. Before I could respond, he hung up. I was more disappointed than I had expected. Ever since Jack moved out, I constantly worried about him. The thought of him getting married and having someone by his side was comforting. I wanted to meet the woman who loved my son, to ask her to care for him, but Jack's harsh words cut deep. My younger son, Sam, overheard the conversation and shook his head. What the heck? I just bought a new suit for nothing. Man, Jack is so selfish. A few days later, just as I was finishing work and heading home, my phone rang. It was Jack. Her parents are insisting on meeting you, he said bluntly. Come over now, but don't keep them waiting. Panic set in. Should I show up in my work clothes, risking embarrassment, or should I go home to change and risk being late, knowing I'd be delayed if I went home to freshen up? I reluctantly decided to go as I was. On the way, I grabbed some drugstore makeup, did a quick touch-up, dusted off my clothes, and headed to the restaurant. When I arrived, I realized it was a high-end place. The kind that made me feel out of place from the moment I stepped inside. But I had no choice now. Summoning my courage, I approached their table and said, "I'm sorry for being late. I'm Jack's mother, Emily. Thank you for this opportunity." Jack's fiancée and her parents stood to greet me, preparing to guide me to my seat, but before I could sit, Jack interjected, "My mom has all sorts of allergies, so she can't eat at unfamiliar places. This is just a quick introduction." I stood there, dumbfounded. I didn't have any allergies, but I played along, bowing apologetically before Jack rushed me out of the restaurant. He must have thought my appearance was too disgraceful to allow me to stay. I wanted to speak more with his fiancée, to ask about their future together, but I had no choice. I walked home, feeling hurt and rejected. The next day, Jack called. "Why did you show up looking like that?" he snapped. "It was embarrassing. Don't you understand what a dress code is?" Sam overheard again and grabbed the phone from me. "Mom had a nice dress ready for the meeting, but you told her she didn't need to come. Then you called last minute, asking her to rush over after work. What did you expect her to do?" I took back the phone, my voice calm but strained. "That restaurant, it was beautiful." I realized I was out of place. Were her parents upset? "They asked about where you work, what allergies you have, all sorts of things," Jack replied. "You made me look bad. Now, they're suspicious. I'm trying to get into her family's business." "Mom, I don't know much about it, but it's a good opportunity, and I don't want to be stuck working for other people forever, so don't get in my way." There were so many things I wanted to say to Jack as his mother, words that had been building up for years, but in that moment, all I could do was listen. But I knew he wouldn't listen. To Jack, it seemed like I was nothing more than an obstacle. His final words echoed in my ears, "Low-income factory workers don't need to come to the wedding." His cruelty shocked me, but I swallowed the hurt and replied, "If that's what Jack wants, then so be it." As a parent, nothing brings greater joy than seeing your child find happiness. I wanted to celebrate this new chapter of his life, but if Jack didn't want me there, I had to respect his wishes. When I ended the call, it felt like more than just saying goodbye to a conversation. It felt like the bond between mother and son had been severed, and that realization was crushing. I could barely manage a proper greeting to the woman who would soon be his wife. Her parents seemed kind and refined, everything Jack admired. Knowing that they would become his new family filled me with an overwhelming sense of loneliness. But I forced myself to accept it and went to sleep. Life went on. I continued working at the barbershop and the factory, trying to bury my emotions in the routine of hard work. I still had Sam, and when he gets married, I wanted to be able to help him financially, so I kept my focus on working harder. About 2 weeks before Jack's wedding, he contacted me again. I had thought we were done, especially after he told me not to come to the wedding, but now he was back with more demands. "Weddings are expensive, you know that, right?" he said without preamble. "I know, but I don't have any more money to give you," I responded, trying to keep calm. "Besides, shouldn't you have saved something yourself? You've been working." Jack bristled, clearly irritated by my response. "Are you saying you can't even pay for your own son's wedding? You must have a way. Borrow it from somewhere." He wasn't listening. I sighed, feeling the weight of his demands press down on me. "Fine," I said, giving in. "I'll figure it out. Come by the house to collect it." Jack seemed satisfied and hung up without another word. A few days later, he arrived, took the money with a smug smile, said nothing, and left. As I watched him walk away, the guilt of taking on so much debt for my child weighed heavily on me. It wasn't just the wedding, it was the lingering fear that, if something happened to me, the debt might be passed on to Sam. I knew I had to work even harder to pay it off as quickly as possible. One day, not long after, a man claiming to be a customer arrived at the factory. A coworker called me to the office, and to my surprise, a familiar face was waiting for me. Time passed, and the day of Jack's wedding finally arrived. I had been told not to come, so I went about my usual work routine, praying silently for his happiness. I didn't expect to hear from him, but that afternoon, I was called into the office. Jack was on the phone, and it sounded like he was in the middle of the wedding. Confused, I picked up the phone. "What's going on?" I asked. In a panicked tone, Jack said, "Mom, come to the wedding, now." Startled, I asked, "What happened?" He didn't explain, just urged me to hurry and bring Sam. In a rush, I got ready and headed to the venue. When we arrived, a staff member was waiting and immediately escorted us inside. As the doors opened, I was suddenly under a spotlight, unable to see much through the blinding light. Then, to my surprise, the bride's father announced, "This is Jack's mother, Emily. Please give her a warm welcome." I became the center of attention, feeling both embarrassed and oddly pleased. Bowing to the guests, I took my seat, as directed. From halfway up the stage, I saw Jack, arms crossed and looking away, his new suit crisp yet his demeanor tense. It seemed like he was either embarrassed or irritated by my sudden introduction. Next to him, Sam smiled at me, whispering, "Don't worry about Jack. Let's enjoy this. We're here because the bride's father invited us himself." It all clicked. The man who had visited the factory before the wedding was none other than the bride's father. When Jack had been vague about my absence, the bride's father had taken it upon himself to visit me. Jack couldn't argue with him, and here we were, despite Jack's earlier wishes. Meanwhile, Sam eagerly dug into the feast in front of him, his cheerful spirit lightening the moment. Watching him, I began to relax, appreciating the joy of being at my son's wedding, surrounded by well-wishers in such a grand setting. The reception progressed smoothly, filled with warmth and celebration. By the time it concluded, I had successfully conveyed my blessings to Jack and his bride, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. As we prepared to leave, I decided to express my gratitude to the bride's parents. But as I approached the family waiting room, I overheard something that stopped me in my tracks. "Don't get too comfortable," Jack said coldly. "You're only here because my father-in-law pitted you. This isn't a place for a factory worker who's down on her luck." Before I could respond, a voice behind Jack spoke up. "Jack, are you still talking to your mother like that?" It was the bride's father. Jack froze, clearly caught off guard. "Do you realize the financial burden you've placed on your mother? It wasn't just your tuition, but the cost of moving out, wedding expenses, and all the money you've taken from her for your own convenience," the bride's father said sternly. Jack had no retort. He stood there, staring at the floor, biting his lip. Sam, who had been quiet until then, spoke up. "You had Mom take out a loan for this wedding, didn't you? You know that even $10 million wouldn't have covered all of it, right, Jack?" The bride's father nodded. "I looked into it," he said, handing me a small paper bag from his wife. "This is the money you borrowed for the wedding. We're returning it to you." I was stunned, unsure how to react. The bride's father continued, addressing Jack. "In exchange, you will work at the daycare center and repay the wedding expenses through your salary." Jack looked up, shocked. "Work at the daycare? But I don't have the qualifications to be a childcare worker." "You don't mean managing the center, do you?" His uncertainty was palpable. The bride's father remained calm but firm. "Manage? Absolutely not. The families who trust us with their children are hardworking mothers who sacrifice for their families. Someone like you, who doesn't understand the value of hard work or the struggles of a parent, has no business managing anything." Jack's face paled as the bride's father continued, his tone unwavering. "First, you'll start at the bottom." Jack stared at him, eyes wide with apprehension, as the weight of his new reality began to sink in. "You'll be starting with the basics, cleaning the children's toilets and washing cloth diapers at our daycare," the bride's father said with a laugh. Jack's eyes widened in shock. His face fell as he lowered his gaze, fists clenched tightly. Seeing him in such a state caught me off guard, but then something clicked in my memory. "Wait, could it be? Is your father Mr. Helen?" I asked, a sudden realization dawning on me. The bride's father smiled and clapped his hands together. "You've finally caught on." It hit me. This was the same Mr. Helen, the daycare teacher who had looked after my boys when I had just separated from their father. His wife had worked alongside him at the daycare, both of them helping me through some of the toughest times of my life. "My dear, you've been through so much," Mrs. Helen said, stepping forward to take my hand. "But now, we're on your side." After that, Jack quit his job and moved with his wife to work at the daycare center run by his father-in-law. The bride's parents made it clear Jack wouldn't be living off handouts anymore. Until he had repaid every cent he had taken from me, they would deduct a portion of his monthly salary to pay me back. Jack also needed to earn his childcare certification and gain hands-on experience at the daycare. There's plenty of time before he's ready to take over my role, Mr. Helen said with a cheerful smile. As I looked at Jack, wearing a strange, humbled smile, I felt a wave of gratitude for his new family. Their support and guidance were exactly what he needed. And as for me, I returned to work with a renewed sense of optimism, feeling hopeful about the future once again. Hi, I'm Elena, a graphic designer with a talent for transforming everyday moments into vivid realities. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the beach, Michael and I stood hand in hand, enveloped by the warmth of our loved ones. The day had been nothing short of enchanting, filled with laughter and the soothing murmur of the ocean. You look absolutely stunning, Elena, Michael whispered, pressing a tender kiss to my hand as we faced our family and friends. The applause swelled around us, and I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. The reception was in full swing, with guests dancing and the clink of glasses punctuating the vibrant music. Suddenly, Michael gently tugged me away from the festivities. His usually joyful expression was replaced by a serious look, starkly contrasting the smiles of earlier. Elena, there's something important. Sarah is here tonight. I think it's best if you apologize to her. Apologize? Michael, why would I apologize to your ex on our wedding day? I felt my heart race, confusion quickly giving way to frustration. There are things left unsaid, and it might give us all some closure. Michael, this is our day. Why are we discussing this now? Why is she even here? He turned away, the tension between us palpable. She's a family friend. It didn't seem right not to invite her. Just a few words, Elena, for my peace of mind. Fine, if it means that much to you. I acquiesced, my resentment simmering beneath a forced smile as we approached Sarah, who stood awkwardly at the edge of the dance floor. Sarah, Michael thinks it would be best if I apologize for any past misunderstandings, I said, each word feeling heavier than the last. Thank you, Elena. I wish you both the best, Sarah replied, her voice steady but avoiding eye contact. As we walked away, Michael squeezed my hand, expressing his gratitude, yet, doubt began to creep in. Throughout the evening, I noticed Michael's gaze following Sarah through the crowd. Later, as the music mellowed and the night began to wind down, I pulled Michael aside. We need to discuss what happened earlier. Why was it so crucial for you to have me apologize to Sarah today? Elena, it was just about making peace. Don't let this ruin our night. Making peace on our wedding day? It felt more like you're still holding on to something from the past. Elena, you're overthinking this. Let's just enjoy our night. His dismissal stung, and as I watched him mingle with guests, a troubling realization took hold. This wasn't just about making peace. It was a sign of unresolved issues Michael hadn't been honest about. What was meant to be the start of our happily ever after felt more like stepping into a concealed trap. I knew then that this was just the beginning, and I needed to uncover the truth about Michael's feelings for Sarah, even if it meant unsettling the foundation of our new marriage. The next day, still grappling with the confusion from the previous night, I met with a few friends over coffee, hoping they could offer some insight into Michael's peculiar behavior. Why would Michael want me to apologize to Sarah of all people on our wedding day? I asked, stirring my coffee absent-mindedly. Elena, you know there was always something unresolved with Sarah. Maybe he feels guilty, Lisa suggested, her role as the devil's advocate clear. But guilty enough to overshadow our wedding day? It just doesn't add up, I countered, frustration bubbling up again. Yeah, it's odd, but maybe he's just trying to clear his conscience, Lisa mused. Tom, ever the mediator, added his neutral take, determined to get to the bottom of it. I waited for Michael to come home from work. The moment he walked through the door, I knew we needed to have a serious talk. Michael, we need to discuss yesterday. Why was it so important for me to apologize to Sarah in front of everyone? Elena, I thought we agreed to put this behind us. I just wanted to smooth things over. Smooth things over? Or is there something else going on? Are you still holding on to feelings for her? Come on, Elena, don't make a big deal out of this. You're blowing things out of proportion. This isn't just a minor issue. Michael, you embarrassed me on what should have been the happiest day of our lives. I apologized, didn't I? Can we just move on? No, I can't just move on. There's something more here, and I need to know the truth. Our conversation was abruptly interrupted by the phone ringing. Michael answered, his face tightening as he listened. I could tell it was Sarah on the other end. He was cautious with his words and glanced at me nervously. Elena, that was Sarah. She's going through a rough patch and needed some advice. On our honeymoon? The timing is too coincidental. Elena, you know I'm someone people find easy to talk to. But why does it have to be you? Can't she confide in someone else? Why are you so insecure about this? You're being unreasonable. Unreasonable? Am I? Or is it unreasonable for your husband to take calls from his ex on our honeymoon? Elena, you're overreacting. You're letting your imagination run wild. Feeling dismissed and disrespected, I decided to take control. The next day, I reached out to Sarah and arranged to meet her at a quiet cafe downtown. Sarah, I don't mean to intrude, but I need to understand why you're contacting Michael. Elena, I'm sorry if this is causing problems. Michael was a significant part of my life, and there are things I'm still working through. But why now? Sarah, why on our wedding day? I hoped it would provide closure, for both me and Michael. This isn't closure, Sarah, it's causing more confusion. What exactly was left unresolved between you two? Elena, I don't think I'm the right person to explain that. The meeting left me with more questions than answers. Determined to get to the bottom of things, I knew I needed clear proof of what was really going on. If Michael wouldn't provide it, I'd have to find it myself. The wheels were already turning for a plan to uncover the full extent of Michael's deceit, a plan that required careful and strategic execution. I couldn't let this slide. The doubts and secretive conversations were too significant. I called Mia, my trusted friend who had always been my rock in times of crisis. Mia, I need your help. It's about Michael and Sarah. Of course, Elena, what's going on? I need to find out what's really happening between them. I'm considering hiring a private investigator. Are you sure about this? It's a serious step. I've never been more certain. Can you recommend someone? Actually, yes. I know a private investigator who's discreet and efficient. I'll send you his contact information. Rick, the investigator, was a man of few words but came highly recommended. When we met in a dimly lit cafe, I outlined my needs. I need to know about their meetings, texts, calls, everything. Understood. I'll get you the information. The days that followed were a mix of anxious anticipation and maintaining a facade of normalcy around Michael. Finally, Rick called. I have something for you. We met again, and he handed me a folder brimming with evidence, photos, text message logs, and call records. The findings were damning: frequent secret meetings, daily messages, and more. It's exactly as you suspected. They've been in constant contact. With the truth in hand, I knew it was time to reveal everything. I planned to confront Michael at our upcoming anniversary party, where many close friends and some of Sarah's acquaintances would be present. The night of the party was charged with tension, at least for me. Michael was his usual charming self, unaware of the storm about to erupt. As we gathered everyone for a toast, I took a deep breath. This was the moment. Thank you all for being here tonight. There's something important I need to share. I turned to Michael, holding up the photos. Can you explain these? Michael, why have you been meeting Sarah in secret? The room fell silent. Michael's face drained of color. Elena, what are you doing? This isn't the place. No, Michael, this is exactly the place. Everyone deserves to know the kind of man you really are. Elena, please, let's talk about this privately. There's nothing left to discuss behind closed doors. You've betrayed our marriage. A murmur rippled through the crowd, shock evident on their faces. Michael tried to grab the photos, but I pulled them away. Everyone, I said, my voice steady despite the quiver of emotion. I've discovered that Michael has been lying to us all for months. He's been seeing Sarah while being married to me. Elena, stop this. It's not like that, Michael pleaded. Then what is it like, Michael? Since there's so much to say, tell everyone here. The room was thick with tension. Friends exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of whom to support. Elena, this isn't you. You're better than this. Michael tried to deflect. I am better, I said firmly, and that's why I'm doing this. I deserve the truth, and so does everyone here. As I stood there, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on us, I knew things would never be the same, but I felt empowered, having taken control of the narrative and refusing to be a victim in my own story. This was the beginning of reclaiming my life. Regardless of the fallout, the room fell into a stunned silence as the confrontation between Michael and me reached its peak. Friends and family, some with mouths agape, watched as the drama unfolded. Why, Michael? Why deceive me? Why the lies? I demanded, my voice unwavering despite the turmoil inside me. Elena, I didn't want to hurt you. It wasn't anything serious with Sarah. I was confused and made a mistake. Michael stammered, his voice a mix of desperation and regret. A mistake? Secret meetings, countless texts, and calls? That's not just a mistake. You humiliated me on our wedding day. This was more than a lapse in judgment. Please, Elena, I love you. I never wanted to lose you. But you chose to betray me. How can there be love where there is no trust? The room buzzed with uneasy whispers. Our friends exchanged looks of disbelief and pity. I thought we could get past this. I thought we could start over, Michael pleaded, reaching for my hand. Start over after everything? No, Michael, it's too late. I can't just pretend nothing happened. As I pulled my hand away, Mia stepped forward. She's right, Michael. You can't play with people's feelings and expect no consequences. Elena deserves better. Supportive nods from those around us reinforced my resolve. This wasn't just my battle anymore. It was a stand for respect and truth. Turning back to Michael, I took a deep breath. This is over, Michael. I deserve a life filled with genuine love and respect, not deception and heartache. With that, I walked away, the murmurs of support following me as Michael stood there, a figure of solitude and regret. In the days that followed, the reality of my decisions began to settle in. It was daunting yet liberating. The path ahead was clear, and it was mine to shape. I was no longer bound by Michael's deceit or the shadow of a relationship built on lies. I channeled my energies into my passion for design, taking on new projects that challenged and excited me. My nights were no longer consumed by what-ifs, but by the joy of creating, transforming blank canvases into expressions of my inner strength. Life had changed, quieter but more authentic. I found a new community of friends who valued and respected me. Each day was a step toward healing and growth. Standing by the ocean one evening, feeling the gentle breeze, I realized this was not just an end but a beginning, a chance to embrace who I was and who I could become. No longer defined by someone else's actions, I was free to be unapologetically Elena, strong, creative, and undeterred by the past. As we conclude Elena's tumultuous journey, here's a question for you. Should personal issues, like past relationships, ever be brought into new commitments, especially something as serious as marriage? Where should one draw the line between past loyalties and present commitments? This story unfolded with every secret revealed, leading to drastic decisions. What's your take on balancing personal history with current relationships? I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Your insights not only enrich our community but also help others who might be facing similar situations. Don't forget to like this video if you found Elena's story compelling, and subscribe to stay updated with more narratives that stir the mind and challenge our hearts. Your interaction means the world to us, and we're eager to hear how you feel about this complex intersection of love, trust, and past connections. Hi, I'm Rachel, a 32-year-old mother who's been through more family drama than most people should have to endure. Before I dive into my story, remember to like and subscribe for more real-life tales from the chaotic world of family dynamics. Here's how it all started. When I married Tom, I didn't just gain a husband. I inherited a whirlwind in the form of my mother-in-law, Linda. From day one, Linda made it clear she thought I wasn't good enough for her son. She had an uncanny ability to walk into a room and instantly drain the joy with her unsolicited advice and constant critiques. Rachel, don't you think Lily needs more structured playtime? You're too lenient with her upbringing, Linda would say, as if my parenting required her approval. And Tom, he would just nod along, never once standing up for me. One sunny Tuesday, I decided to redecorate Lily's room. I thought light lavender walls might brighten it up. As I laid out the paint samples, Linda walked in, her eyebrows raised as if she had just smelled something foul. That color is all wrong. Too cold for a child. You're not seriously considering it, are you? She scoffed, not waiting for my response before turning to Tom. Tell her she's making a mistake, she demanded. And, as usual, Tom mumbled, Mom might be right. It wasn't just her words. It was her constant presence, always hovering, always there. Dinner times were the worst. I'd spend hours preparing something special, only for Linda to scrutinize it like a judge at a cooking competition. This needs more salt. Honestly, Rachel, how hard is it to season properly? She would criticize, while Tom quietly ate, never uttering a complaint unless his mother prompted him. Then came Lily's upcoming birthday. It was supposed to be a simple celebration, but Linda had other ideas. You know, a proper party would have real entertainment, not just homemade games. Shall I hire a magician? She suggested, dialing her phone before I could even respond. Now, Linda, I've got it covered. I tried to intervene, but the icy look she shot me could have curdled milk. It's settled. Kids need something memorable, she said, ending the call and leaving me fuming in silence. Tom, as usual, just stood by, his voice barely audible. Maybe it's for the best. Rachel, Mom knows a lot of people. The day before Lily's birthday, I overheard Linda on the phone bragging about how she had to step in to save the day from my underwhelming plans. Tears stung my eyes, not just from anger but from a deep, growing despair. How much longer could I let this go on? How long before my daughter started to believe Linda's words over mine? That night, I turned to Tom in bed. Do you even hear how she speaks to me? To us, I pleaded, hoping he would finally see sense. Rachel, she's just trying to help. Maybe you're taking things too personally. He sighed, turning away and closing the conversation, leaving me wide awake with a heart full of wounds. As I lay there, the moon casting shadows across our room, I knew something had to change. This wasn't just about a birthday. It was about my life, my daughter's happiness, and the peace of our home. The storm Linda had brought into our lives was about to meet a quiet strength it had underestimated. Tomorrow, on Lily's birthday, I would stand up for myself, for Lily, and for our little family that deserves so much more. The morning of Lily's 5th birthday dawned crisp and bright, just the glimmer of hope I needed to follow through with my plans. I was up early, whisking batter and slicing strawberries, the kitchen filled with the sweet scent of anticipation. Today was about making it perfect for Lily. I arranged heart-shaped pancakes on a platter, the blueberries sparkling like little sapphires next to the golden, fluffy cakes. Mommy, is that for me? Lily's tiny voice broke the morning silence as she padded into the kitchen, her eyes wide with excitement. All for you, birthday girl, I said, kissing her forehead and setting her down at the table. Just then, the kitchen door swung open with a thud, and in stormed Linda, her face already twisted in disapproval. She didn't even greet Lily, just marched straight to the counter where the birthday breakfast lay. This is what you've made? Honestly, Rachel, this won't do at all. Linda's voice was sharp, cutting through the morning warmth like a cold breeze. I felt Lily's small hand squeeze mine, her joy dimming. But Grandma, I love Mommy's pancakes, Lily said softly, her eyes wide with confusion. No, darling, you deserve better, something grand, not this homemade mess, Linda declared. Before I could react, she scooped up the plates and dumped them into the trash. The sound of my efforts crashing into the bin echoed painfully in the kitchen. Linda, what are you doing? It's her birthday, I exclaimed, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice as my hands balled into fists. Linda eyed the trash with a sense of satisfaction. It's settled, she said coolly. Just then, the door swung open, and Tom walked in, his expression a mix of bewilderment and concern. What's going on here? Your mother just threw out Lily's birthday breakfast, I said, my voice trembling with disbelief and anger. Tom, why is she doing this? Tom looked from me to Linda, the conflict evident in his eyes. Mom, why would you do that? He asked, frustration evident in his tone. It wasn't suitable. I'm just looking out for Lily, Linda replied dismissively, her tone cold. This was important to us, to Lily. You can't just barge in and... Tom cut me off, his voice taking on a tone of finality. Let's just get through the day. I watched as Tom faltered, his resolve melting under his mother's expectant gaze. Rachel, maybe Mom's right, let's just order in and avoid the fuss. I stared at him, my heart sinking. Lily tugged at my sleeve, her little face crumpled with confusion and hurt. Mommy, why did Grandma throw my pancakes away? Sweetie, How do you explain to your child that her grandmother values control over her happiness? Tom, this is your daughter's birthday. Your mother can't just. Rachel, let's not make this a big deal, okay? Let's just get through the day, Tom said, his voice weary and pleading. In that moment, it became clear, this wasn't just about pancakes or birthdays. It was about respect. About Lily growing up thinking this was normal. No, Tom, it's always let's just get through the day. When do we start living for us? For Lily? When do you stand up for your family? Tom hesitated, his eyes darting between me and Linda. I am standing up for my family. No, Tom, you're letting your mother walk all over us, I said, my voice rising, each word sharper than the last. Rachel, you're blowing this out of proportion. Am I, or have I just had enough? Clarity burned fiercely within me. Linda, you need to leave now. Linda scoffed, turning to Tom. Are you going to let her kick me out? Tom's response was weak. Mom, maybe you should go. No, Tom, not maybe. You need to choose. You can go with her if you want, but this, I gestured toward the trash, breakfast, Lily, and I can't live like this. The room fell silent, broken only by Lily's soft sniffling. The line had been drawn. Today, I was reclaiming our lives. The morning's warmth had turned to a cold, heavy silence. I moved through it, picking up Linda's belongings scattered around. Each step was a deliberate act, not just cleaning up after breakfast, but clearing out years of suppressed frustrations and sorrow. Rachel, are you sure about this? Maybe we can talk it out. Tom's voice trailed behind me, filled with desperation. Talk it out? Like all those other times? No, Tom, this is happening. My hands were steady as I packed Linda's bags. The clarity from my earlier decision sharpened with each folded sweater and tucked away toiletry. You're making a mistake, Rachel. You're overreacting, Linda's voice cut from the doorway, harsh and unyielding. I zipped up the last bag and faced them both. I'm making a choice for my daughter, for me. Lily deserves peace in her own home, and so do I. The cab idled outside, the driver glancing at the house and then back at his phone. I grabbed Linda's suitcase, the wheels thudding against each step as I dragged it to the door. Tom, please think about Lily. We can fix this, but not with her here. My final plea was for the man I thought I knew, the one I believed would stand by his family. You're choosing her over your own wife and daughter, I said, my voice cracking. Your responsibility was to your wife and child first. I handed Linda her bag. Her sneer tried to mask the shock in her eyes. You'll regret this, she hissed, her words slipping through clenched teeth as she stepped into the cab. I already regret not doing it sooner, I said, shutting the door on her glare and turning to face Tom. His figure was slumped, torn, but his choice became clear when he grabbed his coat. Tom, if you walk out that door, you don't come back. His pause was the last shred of hope fluttering to the floor. I'm sorry, Rachel. I hope one day you'll understand. With that, he stepped out the door, closing softly behind him as if even it couldn't bear to make a sound. The finality wasn't a slam but a soft click that echoed loudly in the suddenly empty house. Left alone, the silence was no longer oppressive but filled with possibilities. I scooped Lily into my arms, her small body clinging to mine. It's just us now, baby. Just us, but we'll be okay. Mommy, yes, just us now, and that's enough. We're enough. I kissed her forehead, her trust in me strengthening my resolve. I walked through our home, each room a testament to a life I was ready to leave behind. My reflection in the mirror showed a woman changed, not broken, but rebuilding. Lily's hand in mine was a reminder of why this had to happen. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, her room finally reflecting the tranquility we deserved, I promised her brighter days ahead. Her soft, rhythmic snores were a comforting counterpoint to the day's harshness. As I sat there watching her sleep, the weight of my choices draped over me like a heavy cloak. I knew the path forward would be challenging, facing community whispers, sympathetic stares, and the loneliness that often accompanies single motherhood. But as I turned off Lily's light, a quiet affirmation filled the room: we are enough. Life as a single mom quickly settled into a routine of resilience and discovery. Lily's laughter became the soundtrack of our new life, filling spaces that once echoed with tension. Yet, new beginnings brought new challenges, especially the legal complexities of our separation. I just want what's best for Lily, I explained over the phone to my lawyer, the papers spread out across the kitchen table. He can see her, but it needs to be in a healthy way, no sudden drop-ins, especially not with Linda. Understood, Rachel. I'll draft the visitation terms clearly. You're doing great, keeping things straightforward, my lawyer assured me. The frequent calls brought legal clarity but emotional complexity. While the community whispered, the louder voices of friends and family stood by us, supporting our small victories. One evening, Lily asked, "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy live with us anymore?" Her small face was puzzled as she played with her food. Sometimes people need a little space to remember how to love each other right. Daddy and I needed that space, I said, keeping my tone light and honest but shielded from harsher truths. Do you miss him? I miss who I thought he was, I admitted, not just to Lily but to myself. As the days grew colder, the first frost kissed the windows one morning as I dropped Lily off at school. While waiting at the gates, another mother, Mia, approached with a tentative smile. Rachel, it's been a while since we've had coffee together, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's been hectic, I smiled back, appreciating the gesture. Thanks, Mia. I might take you up on that. Unexpected community support was a warm balm against the loneliness that sometimes seeped through the cracks of newfound independence. Back home, the phone rang. Tom's name flashed on the screen, a reminder of the thread still connecting us. Rachel, I've been thinking a lot about everything. I'm sorry for not standing by you, for everything with Linda. I didn't see it then, but I do now. Tom, sorry doesn't change what happened. It doesn't undo the decisions you made. Lily and I are moving forward. You should, too. I know. I just hope you find happiness. We already are, I said. Hanging up felt right. It wasn't about bitterness, it was about peace, about building a world where Lily and I could thrive. Watching Lily run across the playground later that day, her laughter mingling with the crisp air, my heart felt full. This journey had taught me the unyielding power of a mother's love and the strength in letting go. We're doing okay, aren't we, Lily? I whispered as she sprinted towards me, her arms wide. The best, she said, wrapping her small arms around me, her world secure in the circle of my embrace. And that wraps up our story, folks. Now here's a question for you all. If you were in Rachel's shoes, would you have given Tom a second chance if he sincerely tried to mend things, or do you believe some actions are too damaging to forgive? Dive into the comments and share your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the story, and subscribe to stay updated with more content like this. Your support means a lot.
You're in the way. Leave now. Fair enough. Let's head out. What's your name? I'm Kay. I'm a sophomore in college. Just finished my general education courses and will be majoring in economics next year. Pretty soon, I'll dive into specialized subjects, and the job hunt will start. I'm also thinking about grad school, but we'll see. My parents are supportive either way, which I'm grateful for. We're well off financially thanks to my dad's hard work building a business from the ground up. While I don't like to flaunt it, I've never had to worry about money, and I'm thankful to my parents for that. Once I land a job, I'm determined to repay them for everything. But despite how good things might seem, I've got my own problems. They mainly revolve around my older brother and his wife. My brother, Rick, is 10 years older than me. To be honest, we've never really clicked. People say siblings with a big age gap don't talk much, but Rick and I talk, we're just not close. Hey, Kane, run and grab some comics for me and pick up a study notebook. Use your own allowance, of course, and don't forget a drink. I've been doing these kinds of errands for years. When my parents were around, they'd step in, but since they both work, I usually just went along with it to keep the peace. Even now that I'm an adult, not much has changed. In fact, it's gotten worse. Things really shifted last year when Rick got married. His wife, Stacy, is the same age as him. She's beautiful, but she's cold. I didn't like her from the start, and it turns out my instincts were spot on. You've got a sister with wealthy parents. I wonder if Caitlin could give us $5,000 as a wedding gift. Stacy has this way of pressuring me, even though I'm still a student. Luckily, My parents had my back. Kane's still in school and living at home. She'll give a reasonable gift like we did. They even offered to give a little extra, but that wasn't enough for my brother and Stacy. You're an adult now. You need to contribute. Exactly. We'll be family for a long time. Time to step up. I eventually just handed over the money my parents had given me, just to avoid conflict. The truth is, Rick and Stacy are greedy. I tried to keep my distance after that, but they keep showing up at our house, always with some snide comment about me still living at home and commuting to school. So, you're still living with your parents, huh? Don't plan on being a freeloader forever, do you? I don't want a sister who's a dead weight. Seriously, it's so embarrassing. Why don't you just move out? That way, we'd all save on utilities and groceries. Plus, there'd be more inheritance left for us. My brother has the nerve to say this even though he also lived at home during college, and had to repeat 2 years. Stacy's remarks are just as bad. Our parents are still working and in good health, but she's already talking about inheritance. It's insensitive. Anything I say would just fuel their anger, so I bite my tongue. But recently, it's gotten worse. They've started bringing their stuff into our house, even though they live only 30 minutes away in a spacious apartment. Clothes, random belongings, they're just dumping it all here. Rick, why are you bringing all this stuff here? You have your own place. My mom finally spoke up, but Rick didn't care. This is my home too. What's the problem? Besides, Kane has more stuff here than we do. Kane lives here. My mom snapped. Of course, she has more things here. Well, I'm your son too. Don't play favorites between your kids. There's no issue with keeping some of our things here. Stacy's part of the family now, which makes her part of this house too. Exactly, future in-laws, Stacy added with a sly smile. Rick's going to inherit everything anyway. Might as well get a head start, right? They kept dismissing my parents' warnings, but one day, they took things too far. Early one morning, I was woken by the sound of heavy footsteps. Burly men were stomping through the house, following Rick and Stacy as they barked orders. It looked like they had hired movers. What do we do with this? One of the movers asked, gesturing towards some furniture. Leave that, but take that one, Rick said, pointing to items that didn't belong to him. Got it. Following Rick's instructions, the men started hauling away drawers and other belongings that were clearly mine and my parents'. They even grabbed my textbooks and daily essentials. Hey, what are you doing? Stop, I yelled, rushing over. Sorry, we're just following orders, one of the men said, nodding toward Rick and Stacy. No matter how hard I tried to intervene, they ignored me. The movers barely reacted, giving me confused looks before turning back to Rick and Stacy, who had clearly paid them well. Before I knew it, our most important belongings were being packed into a truck outside. Oh, Kane, Rick said casually, leave your money with us. We'll make sure it's put to good use. And hey, take mom and dad with you. Don't worry, we've rented a weekly apartment for the 3 of you. 2 weeks' rent is already paid. You can crash there for now. Your stuff will be delivered there, too. What? You can't be serious. Before I could finish, they shoved us out into the yard. I stood there in shock, staring up at the house I had called home just minutes earlier. But then reality hit me. I couldn't stand there helplessly. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm an adult, and it was time to fight back. I guess I'll have to put college on hold for a while. I'll get a part-time job to get by for now. I just hope my bank book and seal are safe. It'd be nice if Rick had left me some basic funds, but I can't dwell on it. The only thing to do now is head to the weekly apartment they mentioned. It's all right, Dad, Mom, I'm not a kid anymore. I turned to look at my parents. They seemed even more shocked than I was, having been betrayed by their own son. It was my job now to lift their spirits. I expected them to be devastated, but when I faced them, both of them were smiling. Well, that went smoother than I thought, Dad said with a chuckle. And faster than we expected, Mom added with a grin. Wait, what? I asked, completely confused. It turned out they had seen this coming all along. From the moment Rick and Stacy started moving their belongings into our house, my parents had suspected their intentions and prepared for this moment. But listen, Kane, Dad said, people like Rick don't back down when you confront them. They only dig their heels in deeper when you try to reason with them. Exactly, Mom added. You can't go head-to-head with someone like Rick. You have to let them think they've won. That's when they let their guard down, and that's when you make your move. So this was part of your plan all along? I asked, incredulous. Their smiles widened at my question. Look, Dad said, I didn't build a successful business from scratch without learning a few things. It's time you learned some of those skills too. Kane, let us show you how to really handle people. They suggested we head to the weekly apartment for now. I thought we were going straight home to confront Rick and Stacy, but apparently, there was a bigger plan in motion. Under Dad's instruction, I walked as though defeated, pretending to be downcast. I think we're being watched, I whispered as we walked. Don't worry, Kane, Mom said, just act like you don't notice. People like Rick and Stacy love to see others suffer. They'll report back, thinking we're completely beaten. Keep up the act. We reached the apartment, and once we were inside, Mom and Dad's energy shifted. All right, Dad said, clapping his hands, most of the plan's a success. Now it's time to hit back. I'm Mom's QE. Dad made a quick phone call. Proceed as planned, he said, speaking to a moving company he had arranged earlier. One of Dad's trusted employees was overseeing the operation. Soon enough, movers began pouring into our house. Boss, everything's going as expected. Your son and daughter-in-law are looking pretty shocked. As I thought, keep going, Dad replied calmly. From what I could hear, the movers were busy packing up key items under Dad's careful instructions. The sound of safes and valuable belongings being removed echoed over the phone. What the hell is this? What do you think you're doing? Barging into someone's house like this? Rick yelled. Do you want us to call the police? Stacy threatened, her voice rising. We're just here on the homeowner's request, one of the movers said, unfazed. Now, could you step aside? You're in our way. Wait, that's my safe with my bank book in it. Where are you taking that? Rick demanded. It's your father's order. We're moving it to the new house. What's going on? Stacy asked, bewildered. I was just about to open it, Rick shouted. Well, it's telling that you don't even know the combination to your own father's safe. That says a lot about how much he trusts you, one of the movers quipped. Shut up, you're just a hired worker, Rick snapped back. Wait, that jewelry belongs to my mother-in-law. What are you doing with it? Stacy screeched. We're taking it to the new home. As per the vice president's orders, if anything gets damaged, you'll be billed. Bill me? I can't afford that, Stacy cried. Then you should probably stay out of the way, the mover replied coolly. About an hour later, the room finally quieted down, and I heard one of the movers speak softly. Mr. President, Vice President, all the arrangements are complete. Sorry to interrupt your day off, the lead mover said respectfully. It's no trouble at all, thank you for your help. My father replied as he hung up the phone and turned to me. Come on, let's head to our real home. He led us to a mansion even more lavish than our old house, grand and imposing in a way that took my breath away. What is this place? I asked, stunned. Our new home, Dad said with a smile. The security here is even tighter. Rick won't be able to get in so easily. And the old house? I sold it quietly. A broker will take care of everything tomorrow. What about Rick and Stacy? Dad shrugged. Not our concern anymore. They might get kicked out, but it was never their home to begin with. They'll figure something out. Exactly, Mom chimed in. Now, we've got a busy day ahead. Let's get everything moved in and settled by tonight. Without further discussion, we all got to work, exploring the new house and organizing our rooms. By the time night fell, we were exhausted but had finished setting up our new home. I was too tired to even think about Rick or Stacy and fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. The next morning, after a long rest, my parents sat me down and explained everything. It turns out they had been prepared for this moment since Rick got married. Your brother's been like this for years, and I had a feeling Stacy would only make things worse, Dad explained. So, I made sure we had a backup plan. I always intended to move us into this house eventually. It's a secret even from Rick, so we can finally live in peace. What about Rick? Won't he try to come after us or cause more trouble? Dad nodded. He's not happy, that's for sure, but we've got the best legal team in place, and it's clear who's in the wrong here. If he pushes any further, we'll take legal action. As it turned out, Dad's lawyer had already contacted Rick. Faced with the threat of a lawsuit, Rick gave up on trying to take over the old house. He was left with nothing. But there was more. Rick, it seemed, had been struggling ever since college. He never managed to find a job on his own and had been working at our dad's company out of pity. "I've had enough," Dad said. "There's no place in my company for someone like him. As far as I'm concerned, he's no longer my son. He's fired." With that, Rick, who had no real skills to speak of, was left jobless. Stacy, who had married him for the money, was livid. "Rick, you're worthless without the money. I want a divorce," she screamed, and soon after, they separated. But Stacy wasn't off the hook either. Dad had a quiet word with her employer, and it didn't take long for them to cut ties with her. After all, they didn't want to lose business with Dad's company over someone like her. Stacy lost her job, too, and found herself without the jewels, the mansion, or the life she had hoped for. "This can't be happening to me. I was supposed to live in luxury, to be the boss's wife," she complained, but it was too late. Even her family refused to help her, leaving her completely alone. Hearing all of this made me realize just how naive I'd been. I thought I was an adult, but I still have so much to learn from my parents. They handled everything so calmly, so strategically. I have to strive to live up to their example and ensure I never become like Rick or Stacy. I'm lucky, I still have time before I graduate college. I'm going to keep working hard, following in my parents' footsteps.